All right. Peace, everyone. This is Chief Speaks, and this is a student panel, open panel discussion of Chief Speaks. Normally, you hear all the uh, "Wow, this is the best call I've ever had on BTR," but
Go
this Sunday,
boldly into the darkness.
yeah, this Sunday we're gonna jump right into it. We're gonna jump right into it. So, we have some students on the line, and I'm gonna pull back in just a second. And actually, I guess I'll play at least one ditty, but I don't feel like the intro today. You know, we had our brother Anwar and I had a nice little discussion going before the start of the segment. So I kind of wanted to keep the energy up, but in usual fashion, I'll just play a little something. Let's see. Uh, um, and then we'll come right in. Okay, here we go.
What really happens, be the joy. Light my fire may not be the things that you desire, but with time we can find common ground. Get up off your ass, turn your life around, round. So feed your faith, so your doubts will start, and free your mind. It's really not that hard. So feed your faith, so your doubts will starve, and free your mind. It's really not that hard. Black people, get up. Your harvest is past due. Regain the glory that eludes you. Brothers, grab hold and see what I see. Sisters, manifest what's been given through prophecy. Get up, so get up, get up, get up, get up. So your doubts will start, and free your mind. Free your mind. It's really not that hard. Really not that hard. So feed your faith. Oh so no. Will start, and free your mind. Free your mind. It's really not that hard.
And take it away, folks. It's all you, brothers.
All right. Well, we are back with another segment of Chief Speaks Student Style. And before we get started, I want to give a sonic libation as well. So we're going to get started something like this, man. We give honor to the Father and Mother of all creation. We give honor to the Father and Mother of all creation. We give honor to the Father and Mother of all creation. We give honor to the Spirit of the North, which releases the winds of spiritual knowing and ancestral guidance. We give honor to the Spirit of the South, which provides a glorious earth, holding our path to transformation, greatness, and brilliance. We give honor to the Spirit of the East, which houses the lights of the great teachers and all the deep thought revelations of all the cosmos. We give honor to the West, which holds the pools of conscious nurturing and rebirth, and its waters of countless births and deaths. We give honor to the Center, which houses the love of all life, which houses the life of all love. We give honor to our ancestors, those who've mastered flight without the use of wings, and those whose bodies line the ocean floor with an ivory bone throne. We give honor to the unborn children. You are the spirit of the serpent's womb. You will be the redemption of your people, and you will be the one. We give honor to Onile, spirit of the house. Shelter us from brutality of a world filled with obstacles. Shelter us from the folly of our own mistakes, and we give honor to Ori. Without Ori, we have no life. Without Ori, we have no destiny. And without Ori, we have no movement in a world of change. So it has been, so it is, and so it will be. Here we go. We got the squad in the building.
I say, oh, yes.
I got the
thank you.
What's
yes,
up, brother?
Man. What's going on, man? Free your mind. It really ain't that hard. It's really not that hard. I gotta say it ain't because I'm slipping. Rise from the ashes. It's a beautiful song to start this segment off.
Oh,
fits so good on what Chief's been talking about this whole week, this whole month.
Beautiful day.
Beautiful day.
Time to be alive, man. Let's get it, huh? And back by popular demand.
Oh yeah.
We got Brother Charles, a.k.a. Shango, a.k.a. Vitamin C.
Vitamin C.
Place to be.
Yeah.
Hashtag free vitamin C.
Hey, I mean, the brother rides fire like a horse, man. Come on, brother. How you living, Brother Charles?
Man, yo, it's a pleasure to be back with y'all, man. I mean, like, you know, after that sonic libation you did, man, I was like, oh, well, that means show's over right there. We did it. You just take that.
Oh.
That was the whole thing.
That's it, right?
We're going to have a good time today, y'all.
That was the grand opening, grand closing right there, man. I was like, okay, good. There it is.
We going to have a good time today. And peace to everybody in the chat room. I normally don't say names, but, well, nah, I'm not going to say it because I'll butcher your names real quick. So peace to everybody in there. Again, if you want to add to the conversation, you can always put anything in the chat room, or you can call in, whichever one you would like to do. But the topic of the month, we're talking about the undeveloped, man. And man, this has been every month is a beautiful month. But this one right here, man, it's just. It really, every month always has you just taking a look deeper inside yourself. I mean, there's you can't blame anybody else for the reason why you're in the situation that you're in. You have to look at it and say, here it is. Everything is laid out right in front of you. And for me, when we start to look at just signs of one being undeveloped ones always go into a situation, what I found is, of what can I get? Like I want to feel, or I want whatever this is, I want to get something. Instead of going into it saying, what can I give? And when you go into a situation saying, what can I give? It causes one to slow down. It causes one to look at things with a different eye, so that if I'm going to actually see myself and implement myself in this situation, I got to dissect what is being given here. And I got to make sure that whatever is being given here is not just regurgitated information, is not useless information that can't be used and applied in today in real time. But when you go in there thinking that what can I get from it, then it's almost like you can get sucked into this whole trick bag. And it's a voluntary action that you get stuck into this trick bag. It's not something that somebody is forcing you to do. They just start to now appeal to your desires. And they're appealing to what you want to hear, not to what you need to hear, but they just start to tell you all of the things that you want to hear, and you can get stuck there. And it was in one of the shows, the chief was saying that one of these trick bags, some of these trick bags is the feminist agenda. You can get stuck there. You can get stuck in this cowardism where you're not going to speak up because you feel like it's not your place. So now you have to suppress your masculinity and you just have to sit back and not say nothing. You can get caught up into this materialism where somebody shows you all of these beautiful things that you can have. This is all you need to want to in order to get where you want to be. And it's like that the movie in the movie 300, where the little, I don't forgot the guy's name, but it was like a little guy who wanted to fight with him. And he was like, man, can you even hold your shield up? No, I can't do that, man. There's not much that you can really help us do. So then he ended up selling them out because the other guy came and appealed to his desires. It was like, man, just give it all up, man. You don't need to do all of that. Just bow down to this dude. He's like, no, I ain't bowing down to nothing. And for you who gave up your life for this material stuff, may you live forever, because this stuff is not going to be around for that long. And you just sold your loyalty. What really is your loyalty worth to you? I mean, and then the other trick bag is the rationalism, where you just getting caught up just waiting around, thinking that things are just going to somehow mysteriously just pan out. And everything is just going to work out. You just got to hold on, and you just got to wait for things just to get better. And if it's meant to be, there's always this saying, if it's meant to be, it's up to me. So you got to get your butt up and start moving. But you can't start to blame other people and say this is why you're in the situation that you're in. It's a voluntary action to be stuck there. It's a voluntary action to be always just to start to blame or always get caught up in one of these things where now people are just catering to you. And it was one of the things in the 48 laws of power, where some people just come in and they talk all of this grandiose stuff, or they over deliver, but they don't, they say what they can do, but then they really don't carry out what they're promising you, what they're going to do. But because they're appealing to your desires, you get caught up in there. And you don't question it, you don't look at it and scrutinize it, and you don't try to dissect it, because now you're just looking to see what can you get from it instead of what you can give. So that was one of the things that just stood out for me, fellas, and I'll let y'all take it away from there too.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say, when I was listening to what you were saying, there's also this idea, and I think it was a part of everything you were saying, of really looking outside yourself for the things that are going to dictate how your life is going to be. You know, when you're talking about that durationalism, obviously we're talking about like this concept of time, for where you should be based on someone else's time or someone else's time concept. You know, the materialism part is, you know, obviously this idea of something that you feel like you need to have or you feel like you want to have based on what has been programmed into you or programmed for you. And even people's ability to say, well, you know, this is what you should want, is also still coming from outside yourself. And, you know, like that's a serious, you know, challenge that a lot of us have and a lot of us face in different ways, because what it really means is that you're relying on something other than yourself for your life to go a certain way. And like you said, if it's going to be, it's up to me. And, you know, for me, there was like, you know, I agree with you, like you were saying from the beginning, it's every month, every show really has so much value that it's like, I feel like every time I'm coming in here, I'm like, yo, this month was awesome. But then, like I said that last month and I said it the month before, and I think it's true every time, because what you're really dealing with is a deeper assessment of self, you know? So it was like, for me, one of the things that jumped out was, you know, the idea of kind of focusing on the wrong thing. And I think that's kind of a build off of what you were saying. And I was thinking about it in a very spiritual sense, and in the way that a lot of us come to, you know, our traditional African spiritual systems, in that we come to them thinking that the study of it is going to give us something that we don't already have within us to begin with. And so, you know, we, you know, a lot of us, we come into the tradition, and if it's the Ifa tradition, then everything becomes instantly about the Orisha. You know, right away we become, you know, a daughter of Oshun, or we become, you know, a child of Shango, and that becomes the whole focus. And oftentimes we don't start off with the Ori. And even in your sonic libation in the beginning, you know, when you were talking about, you know, without the Ori, you have nothing. Well, that's a critical part, because it really lets you know that it starts with you. even Orisha starts with, it starts with you. It starts with your head. But a lot of times when we come into these things, we're coming in from the outside trying to look in instead of from the inside looking out. And so, it also just relates a lot back to me with the value of, spiritual training, Anu spiritual training phase 1, which is the ministry to self. Why do we start there? Because it's so important to get yourself in order first before you start trying to figure out how to work with, this Orisha or that Orisha and so on and so forth. I always remember in one of the first divinations, I ever had with Chief, him giving me that message. And I needed it at the time because I started off that same way too. I started off with, let me get this candle, let me get the yellow candle for this, and let me get the green candle for that. And I'll put the green and black candle together. And it was all of this focus on everything outside of me. And I needed to be reminded that, it's not the tools, it's not the implements, it's not the Orisha, it starts with you. And then with your understanding of it, then that gives you the ability to tap into those things, but you're tapping them into them to the degree that you have yourself, to the degree that you're tapped into yourself. So, that was kind of like one of the real things that jumped out. And there's a couple other things as well, but I definitely want to, toss the ball over to Brother Anwar and let him jump in too.
Definitely. One of the things that really stuck out for me this whole month was the value of examination, asking why, what, where, how, when. Really getting into what Chief was talking about, the Socratic method and the Hotepian dialectic, and questioning the movements that you make, questioning the attention that you put your mind into. What are you doing? Why are you doing it? Is it really something that's going to affect what you are and knowing who you are and moving forward in your life purpose? So I think that was one of the biggest things that stuck out to me, is just to make sure that question what you're doing every day. If you get up, like being Chief, for having a conversation earlier, if you get up and work for somebody for 8 hours a day without even taking at least 10 minutes for yourself and questioning and not being able to spend time on your own life purpose, what is it all for? What are you doing? What is it? So you got to ask those questions, man. Another thing that was part of something I got from this month was the layering of it. The undeveloped mind is multi-layered, multifaceted. So for whatever level of enlightenment you might be at, this basic principle of questioning and examining yourself is present in every level that you're there. Because it's like checking the check box every time you or scratching off a task every time you get past something. You've already accomplished something, but why did you accomplish it? Where are you going now? Now you got to examine those parts. So, I got a lot more too, man. I did a breakdown for each show. So, I don't want to just start off like that. So if anybody else, I'll pass it off.
No, go ahead, brother. I don't want to start off like that. It's on your mind, man. Get it off.
Okay, I got a breakdown, man. A breakdown. All right, for the first one, signs of the undeveloped, the web. This was the value of examination. This is the one that particularly focused in on asking why. Chief spoke on not questioning said parameters, asking why. Why are these things set right now for me in my life? Why am I at this point? Why are these negative negations coming at me? Why are the positive growing coming to me? Is examining what you're doing in your life at this point so you can move forward. Finding your own truth. You spoke on that too. Finding your own truth, man. Once you find your own truth inside of those questions, you're able to move forward with that. Once you find your own truth, then you figure out then you go into based on the research that you did and the questioning you did, is it is it focused into your life purpose, your destiny? Is it something that's justified in your soul? Your soul will tell you. Your soul will tell you whether you like it's supposed to be there or not. That's the thing, is that, you know, when you're in a situation and you're doing something that's completely against your life purpose, you're gonna hate every minute of it. You're gonna hate every minute of it. You might have to do it, you might not have to do it, but you know for a fact your aura is sitting there radiating, probably inflamed, because you know you're wasting your time doing something. So it feels like you're wasting something. You got a vibration of not being in tune with the rest of the current that's pushing you forward as your life purpose. You know, that was in part one in the web, and that's just questioning and using the word the web in that situation is like, if you think about a web, there's so many angles and so many directions you can go in the web without being stuck. You know, you get stuck in that cycle. You know, if you're able, the spider can move all over its web, because using all of its using all of its legs to make sure that I can go down this angle. So that's the questioning part of it. So, in part two, he spoke on stuck in cycles, and he spoke on capturing the head of the snake, getting bit by the snake, because you need to take the time out to sit there and watch the snake and see how the snake was moving. And if you did this, what would the snake do? Instead, you just went and just tried to grab the snake and you ended up getting bit. And, you know, and it kind of goes into what he was talking about too. It's like the microwave society, everything needs to be instant gratification, instead of sitting there saying, you know, let me take some minute to really understand what I'm working on, what I'm studying, what I'm trying to produce, what am I really doing? You know, getting into the study of it before you start speaking. You know, and I think that the side note is that, you know, a lot of the stuff that we get in society and in the media is that you're hearing like half stories or half truth or half information. They get a good teacher like Chief, listen to him for like a month, and then go out in the world and start speaking on a topic that they really didn't have or bear the understanding of and they start talking about what the topic is, and now all of a sudden they're the scholar, they're the intellectual. They get this they hype it up, they market themselves, and they hype it up like they know a lot about the topic, but it's just not. That's not smart. Gets you bit by the snake all the time. You know, also it's like information. You got to grasp all the information, grasping the root of divine power. You know what I'm saying? You got to grasp the root of it, going all the way into knowing if you got a let's say if you got a new lawnmower and the lawnmower doesn't even use a pull string, you got to press the button to start it up. Okay, why does the button work, and how does this work? And if I push it, how does that work? You know, how does the thing work completely? You need to grasp the whole holistic approach of the subject that you're getting, so you can get that full information, and then you'll be able to speak and teach and gain some kind of authority on the topic.
Can I interject real quick?
Yeah, interject.
So when you were just speaking about, again, that you saying that why, and you know, and that why is going to cause you to slow down. And a lot of times you alluded to the web, and that web can get caught up in the, you know, if I'm a certain age and I should know a certain thing and I should be further along the road than somebody else who is younger than me, so I shouldn't have to learn from them. And even if you look at the book says grasping the root. If you don't have the root, then you're going to miss everything else that it has to give to you, or even has to offer to you. So if you start to skip the step and say, you know what, I just need D, E, and G. That's the only thing I need. And then all of a sudden you come to somebody and say, well, okay, do you know about A and B? No, yeah. I'm already good on that. I just need this. But then you're going to miss the fullness of what something has to offer to you, because you want to skip the steps. And that's how one stays in the cycle of being undeveloped, because you don't want to go back to, oh, well, you know, I already got that. Do you really have that? It's okay to say you don't have it, because if you don't have it, then that's how you build something up. So many people want to learn trigonometry, but then you ask them what's 1 + 1 and they say 15. That's not it. Slow down. Find out what that why is. Find out why you're even coming in here and what you need it for, because your life, you want to deal with all of these great sciences, and you want to deal with all of these great things, and you want to get all to blame other people to figure out why you're in the situation you're in. And you can have that conversation, and that conversation will be great. But first, you got to figure out why your head is in the toilet. Like, your head is over there in the straight toilet, but your body is, and we're trying to have this conversation talking about higher ideas and higher sciences, and you all over there, your life is a complete mess. So when somebody comes back to you and say, hold on, this is something we do at Anew. You're not going to come over here this, oh, no, this is all I need. Whoa. But slow it down. Let's see what you really do need. Do you really even know what you need? Do you really even know what you want right now? Because half the time, usually people who come with these big problems and these big issues, that's not really even your issue at all. Your issue, you know, I'm dealing with some anxiety. You're dealing with anxiety because now your character is flawed. Your character is flawed because you're not in the community, because that's going to help shape your character. So now all of a sudden you got these other issues that are going on, but you want to skip those issues because you just want to get to what can I take. So then all of a sudden when Chief starts breaking all of this stuff down, and you know, I'm going to just fast forward it to the part I need. And then it becomes like a little game where it's almost like dun 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 dun, and then you pick out that word that he just said that you can get offended by, and then all of a sudden, then that's when you want to start, because the ego can only exist when it gets offended. So you only pick the word out that offends you, so you can say, okay, this is why this is the way it is, or this fixed me with this one problem, and he done fixed the whole problem, but you done tuned that whole thing out because your head is in the toilet. Get your head out of the toilet first, get to A and B, and then you can get C, D, E, and F, and then you become developed, and then you'll start seeing that these other raggedy behind teachers that are starting to try to tell you all of this garbage, you'll say, hold up, man, this has already been said. Oh, hold up, what do you mean by that? We're going to replace this system with this system, but that system really doesn't work, man, because I've already grasped the root of it. And if you're at the root of it, then you can say, hold on, man, you're just talking about tree limbs and the branches. That's not going to actually affect change. It's not going to be effective. So what you got to go back to do is go back to that root. And once you can grab that root and grasp it, then that's when you become more developed and more evolved. But when you walk into a situation where you're saying, what can I get? You're going to miss the whole thing. You're going to miss the whole thing. And you're going to stay undeveloped.
Yeah, and the other thing too is that, I mean, when you're looking at it from a taker perspective of what is it that I can get, you're only going to be willing, you can only get what somebody is willing to give to you, which means that your learning, your understanding is always going to be capped in a certain way by that person that's extending themselves, you know, and whatever their motivations is for doing it in the first place. So, you know, like I remember there was one show where, you know, Chief was talking a little about now how information comes to people and who information comes from, and the people that are even set up as leaders. You know, a lot of times the followers are restricted by the ability of that leader to give, by what that person actually knows, and limited by what that person doesn't know. And so, you know, a lot, I mean, like, you know, we talk about self-actualization all the time, but this is a critical part of your own actual development, your own actual self-development. And you can't rely on someone else to give or do that for you. You know, even the concept of grasping the root of divine power is so appropriate, because you're really talking about getting out of that web. So, you know, like, it would be very easy, and you know, I'm sure that some of the folks in the chat room have seen this, and I've seen this too, and I've even been a victim of it as well. And even in your spiritual work, sometimes you become very cyclical in what you do. You know, you might have like a real tough 3 months where you're in your shrine all the time. You know, you're doing your libations every day, and then something happens, and then you're not doing it anymore for a month or two. It might be longer, or you might fall off completely, and then you're not doing anything for a couple months, maybe even a year, and then you come back and you start the cycle all again. And then when you start the cycle again, you're really starting from the same point, because you haven't really found your why, like that critical point. You haven't found the why that you're doing this, and that why, while it's for and about you, it's also bigger than you. And that's what really drives you to really, that's what's really driving you. You know, it's like a lot of times we look at, you know, if you ever watch any documentary or anything about anyone who is quote unquote successful, what you'll find is that their focus is very rarely on the development of that thing that they're successful for doing. You know, it's not about the person that's famous for developing a certain software. That wasn't their goal. The goal wasn't about the development of a software, or even the person that's famous in the music business. It isn't about just making music. It's about the total idea of the experience that happens usually for someone else, for what they're getting out of what that person is creating. You know, and so this is an important thing because it ties us to that idea of really having a sense of gratitude and having a why that is driven by you and also bigger than you. You know, these systems that we are part of and connected to are bigger than us. You know, they're bigger than just your mind. These are the systems of your ancestors, and they're the systems and they're the systems of your future children and your future children, and 7 and 8 and 10 generations down the line. And you're a part of that. So you have a critical part of what you have to do. And at the same time, you're a small part of the entire story. So it's like, you know, you really have to see both sides of it, and you really can't get that from someone else or get that from somewhere outside of yourself. Like, I remember I saw this thing a while ago, and it said, you know, you can't get to your God level following another. And it's true. You know, at some point, even if you have a teacher, even if you have someone who's instructing you or giving you some insight and guidance, you have to step out on your own in order to reach your highest level, so that way you become the bridge to help someone else to reach their highest level. And that's part of the building the system. You know, that's why these are called traditional African spiritual systems, because they're not about getting to a certain level and stopping somewhere. They're about you actually continuing the growth process and actually moving the idea of the tradition forward, so that when someone else picks it up, they can pick it up from another's part and move forward from there. Not that they're just going to repeat the same cycle over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm. And now that's also inside of Start the Cycles when we spoke on the ego and how it comes into play. And when the ego comes into play, it's you're really trying to carve out your own way. You know, you're carving out your own way through the things that your ego lusts for or wants for. If once again, the ego is where most of the pain comes from. And whenever we might be experiencing past hurts, and since we went through this bad relationship or this loss of money or whatever we went through, we're influencing that into our direction, this direction that we're going now in the present. And with that pain, we're consistently trying to carve out a way instead of actually just going down the road that's already there for you and that's already developed for you. You have to get past all that hurt. You know, with the ego comes attachment. Attachment equals emotions and fear. You know what I'm saying? So one of those things that plays a major role inside of being stuck in that cycle is the ego. You know, attachment causes exhaustion. Chief has spoke on that. Meaning, like, whenever you're consistently worried about paying a damn bill, and I'm telling you, this is one of the things that touched me, is that I'm always consistently worried about having enough. So I had to break out of that. I had to really literally look forward and say, you know what? Let me stop, because I have not been able. I've been paying my bills, so it's not a time that I have not been able to. Even though it might not seem like I have abundance of wealth, but you know what? I have the abundance of making sure all my stuff gets situated. So you gotta look at it a different route. Instead of worrying about, oh, I got to go work this 8-hour job just so I can get this done. Now you got to look at, you know, what can I do that I'm good at and what I do very well, and what flows inside of my own vibrations of where my life purpose is, and what do I have to do to make that more stronger? Because everything behind that, everything that follows that is going to be the enlightenment or the way that you have, the means, the functionality of it. So the ego, once again, once you start getting attached to all those past hurts, those back thin thoughts that Chief was speaking on, it might not be what you're going through right now. All those past troubles and everything are past. They passed. just in the word past. They've already gone past. You might not be there right now. You might not be in the zone where you can't find a good mate because what your past mate did or how you acted in the past. You might be energized enough right now to have the perfect mate, but you keep on bringing in that same hurt that you had from the last boyfriend or the last woman that you were in, and now you can't find a good mate because you're still, like, men stuck in that womb and women stuck on that stick. So that's the problem. You know, you got to look at where you're at in the present, let go of that ego, and look for a higher ground from higher ground to move to. You know, if you're talented, like for me, example, from my example, from what I'm doing, this month really energized me. Even with the conversations with the brothers that we had on the men's call, it's like, let's build our engine and make our engine vast enough that it's going to be able to operate under our umbrella, you know, and make our umbrella cover our mates, our children, and anything else that might fall underneath that umbrella. So looking at the higher point, the higher angle of who you are, what your purpose is, and getting your engine in place to run all those all those situations is very important. Get past the ego. You know, humility is something that you have to deal with. It's something that you have to grow into. So I was about to say something else, but you know how it goes.
Yeah, no, and listen, you just said something that I really want to just jump on that with you. Yeah, of, you know, the pain that comes with some things, and we can't do things trying to resist pain or trying to avoid pain, because that's a part of life. You know, the reality is that pain is an inevitable part of trying to struggle and trying to grow and trying to change. And in many cases, you know, it's our ego that wants us to stay in the most comfortable place possible, because in that place, we're not growing. You know, the ego is going to promote that sense of comfort. You know, I'm comfortable in this, you know, this job that I really don't like, but it is paying my bills. Or I'm comfortable in this relationship that isn't really fulfilling me, but I get to tell, you know, my family that I have somebody, or I have someone, you know, to buy a Christmas gift for, or something like that. You know, I'm not really comfortable with, you know, like how I look right now, or physically how I am, but, you know, I can just keep buying. I can just buy, you know, my clothes a little bigger and it'll be okay. And the ego is going to constantly give us that justification to stay where we are. And the only way that we push past that is by actually going through the pain. And on the other side of that pain, there are valuable lessons that are learned. And so, you know, when Brother Anwar is talking about the value of that pain and the value of going through it, that's a critical part of this. You know, even in our process of learning more about these systems, there's pain that comes with that. There's the pain that comes with stripping away what you used to think. There's a pain that comes with stripping away and breaking down relationships that you had that were based on some of your prior beliefs. And there's also that pain of being sometimes isolated because you don't always have people around you that are sharing the same ideas and perspectives as you are. But that's a critical part of you gaining your own sense of mental toughness and your own sense of purpose. And even within that, you still cannot become a person that becomes bitter and closed off. You know, because once you become bitter and closed off, then you're no longer in a space where you can actually affect change around you, where you can actually let your example be one that others can follow. You know, and so that you know, when you were just saying that part about the ego, you know, it's a critical part of it. And I think, you know, it's critical for us to understand that pain is a part, that pain does come with this. You know, getting, you know, like having divinations is not a fun process most of the time. You know, most of the time you're going to hear something that you don't necessarily want to hear, something that might offend you, something that might hurt your feelings. But that's an important part of you actually developing a stronger constitution and a stronger will. But you have to put yourself in those kinds of positions for that to happen. Sometimes in your spiritual work, it requires you to be uncomfortable. It requires you to be in uncomfortable places. Maybe that's being in a forest at night in the dark where you can't see right in front of you. Or maybe that involves being outside when it's 100 degrees with different spiritual implements doing different work. It's not a comfortable process. And yet it's a necessary process if you're going to push past that ego into the place where your soul really is, which is a constantly evolving thing, and you tapping into that becomes a constantly evolving process.
Mm-hmm. And there's something that popped up in the chat with Rahani Jaha. She said it. I took your advice. She's speaking to me. I took your advice, and everything is better than expected. However, I still get nervous. And I just replied to her and said, that's wonderful. Just remember, fear is impermanent. Use it to move forward. So those, just to kind of go off what you're saying, Brother Charles, is that those fears, doubts, and pains and hurts that you've experienced in the past about things that you are changing from or came from, you got to use that pain. You got to use that energy to move forward from the situation that you're in. I take it that energy is actually the best energy, the motivator, really the motivator of where you want to go. If you're really serious about your spiritual, mental, physical, financial being and health, you are going to have to take those hard steps, even though it might mean that you have to work 3 times as harder than you are now, but you're going to have to take that step just to break that ego and that shell and get past the point where you're at. So that's some good insight right there, Brother Charles. Thank you.
And I just wanted to, y'all, hitting it right on the head. And there's just a couple things, Brother Charles just said, you got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And that just means that your ego is going to take a hit. When you come to some real, true teaching, some authentic teaching, it's not going to stroke and pacify your ego. It's not going to tell you things that you already know that you really could have had your own self-talk, and that's what kept you in the same cycle that you're in. And even when you touched on it, Brother Armstrong, you said some people don't have a mate. Some don't have a mate because you just suck as a person. Like, you don't deserve a mate. Nobody, and even if you say, oh, I'm just this great person and somebody's going to come along and love me for who I am. No, they're not. No, and even if you attracted a good person in your life, quote unquote, then they're not going to stay with you anyway because you're going to end up running them off because you haven't done any self-assessment or self-work. Everything is just going to be handed to you, but yet you want to come and do some rituals. You want to get a candle, or let me get some love spray. I'm going to spray it on my neck and on the back of my head, and then all of a sudden somebody's going to poof and magically appear in my life, and you did absolutely nothing. Do you really think that this is going to work? Do you really think that you can put in absolutely zero work on yourself and still be undeveloped and then attract somebody who is developed? And a lot of times some people get into what you're in alignment with is not really what you want. So you got to now have to hear somebody say, hold up, man, I don't understand why I keep attracting 400-pound plus people in my life. Could it be because you're 400 plus pounds? Possibly. But you don't want it. You just want to sit there and talk about all of this other garbage of why you can't get the things that you want because you fell into that trick bag of what somebody programmed in your mind that you've seen on TV, or they keep telling you just be the great blossoming flower that you are, and you're this perfect person. And the only really real reasons why you're not getting to where you want to be is because you haven't met another perfect person like you. And you can just talk real slow, and you can really just have a mentate on what I'm saying, and just let this go through your body from the top of your head to the soles of your feet. And you just see that light shining down on you. And you can still play that game and still be stuck in the same cycle that you're in. And you're wondering why it won't work, and you're frustrated, and then you start to become insane. And it's like, now you stop playing. But when you come to a real teacher who says, hold up, we're not playing them games. We're going to cut right through it because the ego is not going to live here, because I have to break this down in order to build this back up. Anytime you even have a conversation, again, it goes back to their truth. In order to break down the truth, you have to see what they have, what they perceive to be as a fact. Well, to get to the breakdown the fact, you have to perceive what they see as a belief. And then you start to build it back up from there. But you can't in order to add, you have to take away. You have to remove. And a lot of times people don't want to remove things. I don't want to have to look at these things because they're real nasty and scary things that I don't want to deal with. And the things that really hurt me. And I'm going to just go ahead and keep burying it. I'm going to build things on sand because when they come back up or somebody sheds some light on the scar that I have, I'm going to run or I'm going to lash out. And I'm going to use my throat chakra and just tell you everything about yourself of why you just this dumb, brute, mean old man who just wants to come down on me and not let me do the things that I want to do. But in essence, it's really, this is what real love looks like. But you've adopted this whole thing of love in your whole life that says this is what it's supposed to look like because this is what TV has told you it looks like. Or you come from a broken family and your mom really didn't show you love, so you start to look and lean on what your mom told you what it was, so now you become a sinner. Or you're missing your dad, so now all of a sudden you have problems with men, so now you say men are supposed to be this, and this way, and now both of you coming in a broken spot and now trying to make a whole part, and it doesn't work. And you're leaning on an understanding and using words that you don't really know what they mean. And then you're trying to plug them into a system that doesn't work, never really did work. And you can look at the divorce rate and see they don't work, but yet you keep using these words at the same time. This is what happens when you stay in this cycle of being undeveloped and you don't really challenge and look at that word and say, what does that word really mean? Do I really need that word? Is there a really sense of, can I really love somebody? Do I need to love somebody with just being a part of their growth and development? There's some people, and then you start to look at your life and say, there's some people who came in who didn't necessarily love me, but really just gave a damn about me. There's times when I have conversations with Chief and never heard him say the word, but guess what he said? You got any more questions? That's love. And I've been on the phone with him for an hour plus. When you can remove the word, that's when you really understand what words mean. And then you really start to break them down and see what it really is starting to do and how you can evolve with it. Don't stay stuck in that cycle. That cycle now, when you start to label things, it keeps you stuck in a certain cycle that tells you this is what it has to be. And you miss the whole journey because you get stuck on a destination because now you're stuck in a cycle of being undeveloped. Nice. A true teacher is not going to lead you down a path. He's just going to lead you to a path. And you got to do that own work. But see, so many people get stuck in this absoluteness where it has to be this. And it has to be that. And if it's not that, then it must not be this.
Another thing about a true teacher is what Chief was speaking about is also a teacher is going to take away things from you. You know what I'm saying? So some of those issues that you have accumulated to this present date, when the teacher comes in and starts saying, oh, you can't, that's got to go. That's got to go. That detachment of those pains, those feelings, and those past situations is going to be a painful process. Once again, going back to the potter, and you done grew a big old 8 arms off the pot, and the potter's like, nah, I'm taking all 8 of them off, and that hurts. Painful process. I think Sister Michelle just got onto the line. How are you doing, Sister Michelle?
Peace, honey family. Peace, brothers. How's everyone doing?
Hey, what's up?
Thank you for taking my call.
Sister Sass, what's up? What's up?
Happy to be back. I just wanted to share a little bit because, as usual, like, you know, how you guys have been saying that this month, like every other month, has been so powerful and so insightful. And I just wanted to bring up one thing that really stuck out for me. And that was, and Chief repeated it throughout the whole month. And he said that he was talking about the undeveloped, not the underdeveloped, you know, and almost saying that there is no level. There's just personal progress. Like, so you can't really compare your level or your walk on the path to somebody else. You know, there's no level like under you or above you. There's just progress. And some people choose to do the work and some people don't. Right? But at the same time, it's almost like having empathy for them. Like, they're on their way. But at the same time, you don't have to necessarily have them around you all the time. You know, because you are trying to move along in your path. So you have to be almost really selective about the kind of people that or the kinds of developed people that are alongside with you. And so it's almost like a middle point. You have to have empathy, but then at the same time, you have to know when to say, okay, you're hindering my progress now. And, you know, I think as a spiritual community, that's so important, because we do have to know who's around us, and are they really working? You know, really have to identify who are the people in our community who's here to give and take, and then who are the people who are just taking because they don't know how to give, or they don't know that they're supposed to give, or they haven't been taught a certain way. So, you know, everybody has their own issues. So everybody has a really good excuse as to why they're not at the level that's required. But at the same time, we have to say, okay, well, we love you, we wish you well, but, you know, you have to go hang out over there with the other people. And, you know, that's really important, because people do affect you. I mean, as a woman, the quality of people who are around me do affect me. You know, so it's something to keep present, right?
Mm-hmm. Now, the one thing Chief iterated about the undeveloped and the underdeveloped, we have no authority to speak on someone's underdeveloped, because your development is stated by who you are and who your life purpose is, your RE. So the conversation hasn't been about the underdeveloped. The undeveloped has been the main topic, and this is when you don't have when your mind has when your being, not only just your mind, your whole being has elevated to a certain point, you'll find that there's only people that are around you that vibrate off that energy that you put out. So if you have a whole bunch of undeveloped people around you constantly, and you're still dealing with underdeveloped issues that's happening in your life, it's because you are doing something that's still undeveloped, or undeveloped. Let me use that word, because I think I use underdeveloped. You're dealing with something that's undeveloped. You know, you're attracting the same energies until you break that mold, get past that ego, and get past those points. Those undeveloped people that might be in your cipher are going to stick around with you. Until when you pass that point, 9 out of 10 times you're gonna start losing people. You're gonna start you're gonna start seeing your flock thin out quick. And I've gone through that. I've gone through a point where it's like, yo, I have no friends. I have nobody. Where is everybody? The only person I got right now is me. So let me take this time, since I only have me right now, to focus on me and who I am, so I can learn who I am. So whenever I do go out into the world, now I'm attracting people that are similar in thought or in a space where I'm in, so I can learn from them and learn from that community, and then grow further on my life purpose and my life mission. So it's a good point that you made up, System. So I appreciate that.
And if I can just add to that too, you know, this is where the character becomes so important, right? Because your character is going to define what is really acceptable to you. And so, you know, when Sister Michelle was talking, and she was saying about, you know, like thinking about who's around you, what kind of people in your circle, you know, like Brother Anwar saying, that circle is always going to reflect your character, right? And there was a show, it was a couple years back, one of the Thunderground's Thursday shows that talked about, you know, integrity, right? And integrity and even the idea of integer, or like integral, you know, all these things meaning the whole, you know, the whole of what something is. And for us, you know, the whole of what we are is our character, right? So our character is constantly dictating the kind of people we are, the kind of people we hang around with, and the kind of situations we go through. So if you want to raise the vibration of your character, you have no choice but to raise the level of people you hang around with, and raise the level of the situations that you're a part of. You know, I read this really kind of interesting article a couple of days ago about, you know, just even thinking about the idea of what it means to be successful. You know, success is not, the acquisition of things. It's about living your life at the highest level for you. Well, in order to do that, you're going to have to cut yourself from certain things that are of a low vibrational energy. Whether that's, a person that's bad for you, whether that's, eating Haagen-Dazs ice cream at 2:00 in the morning, whether that's, sitting on Instagram for 3 hours a day, whatever it is, these things that are low vibration for your character, for your integral nature, are the things that you're going to have to change in order for you to reach that highest level of success. So what Sister Michelle is saying is right on point, because that's really a part of what we all have to do. And it ties very closely into this concept for the month, because, that sometimes the people that we're around are what keeps us caught in the same cycles. Now, I was just saying in the chat room, Sister Raw Honey, I know there's a little bit more to it, but I just remember that off the top of my head, was just saying that, she felt like her support system is, keeping her on the slave ship. Well, that's reflective of the kind of people that are around you. If you want to move away from those people, if you want to get off the slave ship, then you have to get in the presence of people that are liberators. But that also means that you have to be thinking about liberating yourself first, because that also then raises the vibration of people that are going to be around you.
And that just makes me think of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who always said that your environment is always going to be stronger than your teacher. So the people that you hang with is going to start to define the trajectory and where you're going to start to go in your life. So if you hang around and you find yourself more often than not around 5 idiots, the 6th one is going to be you. There's no getting around that. There's no trying to, I'm just going to vibrate on a higher level and I'm going to do, guess what? They're going to pull you right back down to the same level that they're on. And again, you have to know, don't look at or don't blame anybody else but yourself, because you're not dealing with undeveloped people. You also are undeveloped. But once you start to know that, it's like when you go into a AA meeting, the first thing you got to do is say, I'm an alcoholic. You got to recognize that. If you skip that step, none of them other steps are going to actually matter to you. But you first have to come into recognizing it and knowing that this is where I'm at. And if this is where I'm at, then I actually can start to implement and make some changes into my life to do something different. But if you're not going to figure out that, these people are not actually helping me, this is not actually being any conducive to where I want to be, and it's time to go. And guess what? We've been talking about this on many shows. We talk about how much stuff that you had to get up to get where you want to go. And it was like, are you going to lose friends? Yes. Are you going to lose time that you want to be out hanging out and partying? Yes. Are you going to lose some of your credibility that you felt like you had with so-called friends? Yes. But are you going to start to gain your sanity? Yes. Are you going to start to gain peace and clarity? Yes. So what you're going to have to give in order to get. See, but you got to pay the piper, and who you got to pay is your ego. Your ego is going to have to be fed, because you're going to have to get to where you want to be. So in order to pay it, you're going to have to sacrifice. You're going to have to be patient, because it's not just going to happen overnight either. And it's not just this quick trick bag that you can just pull out in the microwave and you pull it out and say, well, okay, I'm where I want to be. It took you a long time to get to this spot. It may take you a lifetime to get out of that spot. Who knows? But guess what? I'm going to give it everything I got to get out of here. I'm not going to stay stuck here. I don't want to be, because it's real crowded at the bottom. There's a lot of people down there, but there's a lot more cleaner air when you start getting up and climbing that mountain. But you got to climb your own mountain. And it's rough, and you're going to get scarred up. You're going to get battered. You're going to get bruised. You're going to get some scrapes. You're going to get it, but you keep going. You can't get over it. You can't go under it. You got to go through it. You got to go straight through it. And you got to know that even when we do these student panels, you got to know when she gets on here on a day in and day out basis, there's people on the other side. But you got to put in your own work. Everybody can't do the work for you. You got to do it. But see, an undeveloped person will sit there and say, man, I don't need all of that. Only thing that we talk about is education over initiation. It's no good if I just give you something and all of a sudden you're going to be back asking the same thing again. And then now you create like a sickness now where you just need this person, because if this person is not there, then I don't know what I gonna do now. And we already seen, if we look in history, that doesn't work. You can't have one person at the top and nobody putting that work in. So now all of a sudden you just remove the head. Now the body is dead. You got to put in that own work, and then now you become forces that can't be stopped. But you got to develop yourself. You got to put that work in, that time in, that energy in, that effort in, and then you got to examine your circle and say, you know what, this circle is not conducive for what I want to do. I got to move on. And if that means we got to cut our relationships off, so be it. But there's a place that I got to be. And I already know that there's going to be casualties in this war, that everybody is not going to make it. Everybody's not going to get to the spot that I'm going to. So be it. But you leave a rope. Get yourself out.
There's also people in the journey up that mountain that's going to be that iron wall that's not going to allow you to pass with that foolishness. That's what's going to happen. And then when you hit that iron wall, it's not going to be like hitting a regular brick wall. It's going to be hitting the iron wall. So you're really going to split your mess. You split your head trying to keep on going through that wall, and ran into that wall every time trying to go in with that ego or whatever you have attached yourself to. And this person in your life is sitting, you're telling you, no, you're coming at me wrong. You're not getting past this place until you check yourself. And that's where a lot of people start to regenerate themselves. They're either going to fall back into the modality and not achieve another higher level of enlightenment, or they're going to come back, ask the questions why, examine the situation, see where the wrong is, take responsibility, and move past the wall. The wall is going to allow you to move past once you have reached that level of ownership of your actions. And that's just the hard point that we get, is that, look, you got these people that are going to sit there and keep on reminding you, you're messing up. You're not passing this until you fix this. Honestly, I've had that same experience, and I'm not going to get too much detail, but I had to tell this person, you're coming at me wrong. You want to get into a better place, but you're not going to come at me with that information. Or that way. You're not coming at me with that way, because it doesn't affect me in my world. You know what I'm saying? You just can't you can't hang out with the rest of us vultures and think you're going to be a little mockingbird buzzing around in our ears. Nah, it's not going to happen. So you have to actually get past all those pains and examine yourself, and then approach the wall and say, look, I've learned my lesson. Can I move? And humble yourself. And I think that humility is the next step to your enlightenment. That's once you have realized and examined yourself and found out that this problem is me. I've been doing this to myself all my life. Okay, I'm not going to do this no more. I'm going to get up. I'm going to get my affirmations on, and I'm going to live by my affirmations, because this is where I need to head to. So it's important, man. It's important.
And let me just, and you just said something that was like critical, right? Because you just said like living the affirmations, right? Because one of the things that happens sometimes is that we realize that a change needs to be had, and sometimes our ego tricks us into thinking we have an illusion of progress, right? And so, like, for example, let's say you have a person and the person wants to get in better shape, right? And some of you probably know someone like this, or you may have done this yourself, right? So one day you step on a scale and you say, dang, I want to lose 10 pounds, right? So the first thing you do is you say, well, I need some new running sneakers. So you go out and you get some new running sneakers. Then you say, well, I need some new clothes to go to the gym because I haven't been to the gym in a long time. So you get some new gym shoes. Then you say, well, you know what? Like, after I go to the gym and work out, I'm going to need to be able to make some shakes. So you go and you buy a NutriBullet, or you buy a blender. And then you say, oh, well, I need to really work on my whole meal plan for the next month, so that way, as I'm losing weight, my nutrition is right. So then you spend time doing that. And in your mind, you're thinking that you're making the change. But the truth is, all you really had to do is go outside and start walking. So you put all this effort into doing things that wasn't actually making a difference, because you still have the same 10 pounds on you. But you did all these things that made you think that you were changing things, right? And so that's like the trick bag of things. And there's this thing that Brother Anwar just said, living the affirmation, right? How often do we have a problem in our life, and our solution is to go to our shrine and make an offering to this Orisha or do this ritual? But did we actually do anything? You actually, you want a new job. So, you might go to Oshun and you say, I need some new money. I need money in my life. So did you actually apply for a new job? Did you actually do anything that was different? You have a situation in your life where there's someone who you feel like isn't coming at you correctly, and you want to confront that person. So you decide, well, I'm going to go to Shango and I'm going to ask Shango to give me some courage so I can approach this person the correct way. But have you actually done it? Have you actually taken the action and taken the step? Because that's the critical part of it. This gets back to something that, Brother Zach was saying before, that, you have to take these actions. When you take these actions, then these cosmic forces are going to respond to what you're doing. As above, so below. As below, so below, so above. If you're taking the action in the physical world, then you're sending a message out to the spiritual world that you're ready for that same action to take place, and that you're ready for what's going to come from you, what's going to come from that. So it's not just doing the affirmation, it's living the affirmation as well. And that's why that's such an important part that Brother Anwar said, because that's the critical part of real change.
Good God, the mighty Brother Charles. Solid. Oh, my. Look, one of the things that you just said, and this is what I want to ask you, Brother Charles. Look, you just hit on that. How is it? It seems like to keep one undeveloped, you give them an overflow of information. How does one now start to decipher the information that they have, what is actually going to help them to become more developed, or pick the things and then leave the things out that is actually just going to keep them stuck in a cycle to be undeveloped? Because a lot of times I hear people, there's just so much information. You go to a library, there's so many books, there's so much things. Even you said working out, and you have all of these different things that people are trying to get you attracted to. How do you then start to decipher through and sift through that to get to the actual meat and potatoes of that thing?
I would just say, you gotta do the work. It's not enough to just have a book. You have to apply what's in the book. It's like, I remember when I first read Grasping the Root of Divine Power, right? I didn't know probably 90% of what I was reading in that book, right? Because it's not actually a book. It's actually a workbook. It's actually something that as you're reading it, you actually have to do work for it to make sense to you. That's why if the first book, if your introduction into the Anu system is buying Grasping the Root of Divine Power, and you read it, and then you come back and you read it a year later or 2 years later, it's completely different, because now you have understanding. At first, it's just information. And so in that way, it becomes information overload. So you're just remembering things. You might learn, you might study the Patakis, you may study the Adoras, you may study the Orikis, right? But they don't mean anything to you because you haven't applied them. Unlike being able to memorize the Eshu Oriki is somewhat pointless unless you're actually going to apply it in the course of a ritual. Once you do that, then you start to understand, oh, this is why I'm saying that. Oh, this is why this part is important. Oh, this is why we say this here. Oh, this is how that connects to this other part and this other thing on this way. Oh, this is why we're using stones. This is why we're getting the stones from the river. Oh, it makes sense in a completely different way now. And then that's how you make the change. That's how you're able to decipher, this is what I need, this is what I don't need. A lot of us, for example, in the like me, I have a library in my house full of books, right? But I try to make sure that I'm reading the actual books, because some of us, we just like to have people come in and see all the books that we have. Oh yeah, I got a book for that. Oh yeah, I got a book for this. Oh yeah, I got this, I got that. Like right now, there's I saw online, there's like a phone book challenge, right? Where people hold all the books up to their head that they've read. And I hope that the brothers and sisters that are doing that have read those books. But a lot of us know people that have books, you know, hey, we got a book for everything, but we haven't done anything. You know, I remember one time hearing Marimba Ani say that basically every situation that a person of African descent can face, there's been a book written about it. What we lack is the application of what is in those books. And that's the tricky part. That's like the workout thing, you know, like, hey, I want to get myself together and everything. Like, you know, I want to understand Orisha more. So let me go out and get this book. Oh, and then I want to learn some more. So let me go out and get this other book. You could go outside and learn about Orisha. Just like Chief was saying in the last show, you could walk by a river. You could stare up in the sky. You could walk by a tree. You could stand at an intersection. And those things are there because they're part of the natural environment. These are natural sciences. These are earth-based sciences. So the real understanding of it, the real work is actually outside. It's actually about the application. Yeah, the study part is important, but you can't have the study can't be the primary and only thing. It's tantamount to the actual work part. And when you apply the work, that's when you really start to decipher what you need, what you can use, and what's not going to be most useful for you.
You know, another thing too is getting out of the light. You know, you can't be in the light for too long. What happens when you get light-skinned brothers like me get burnt? Hey, like I'll come out. I'll be bright brownish red. I'll be Indian red when it comes out to being in the light for too long. But I've learned for me, and this is what's worked for me, is to get out of that space where it's just information. Because number one, I've experienced it, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people have experienced it, that the only thing that you're focused on is to get that information, get a fix, so you can feel like you're doing something. But not until you go into what Brother Charles was talking about, is doing it, is when you start to apply the information that you you received. So when you actually are starting to do something, that means you're no longer in the light. You're in the place where you're starting to create things and starting to move things and starting to shape things. So, you know, making sure you get out of that light sometimes, go into that little dark pit and develop yourself. You know, and I enjoy the fact now, and this is going to go into appreciation of the third show, is that I enjoy the fact that I can sit there and say, you know what, I don't want to have nothing to do with nothing right now. I want to focus on what I want to create and what the knowledge I've gained, and take that information and put it into tangible ways that's going to make my life purpose even stronger. You know, so that's just getting out of the light sometimes. If you have to cut off YouTube, you have to turn off your Facebook, you got to turn off your Instagram, whatever. You got to turn off some of the people in your family. You got to turn off some people at your job. If you have to get away from that and get out of that environment where you're just being abused by information, well, you're taking the abuse of information and get out of that space so you can take that time to get personal and take some quiet time to figure out exactly what you're thinking and what's coming out to your mind. What spirits are you developing? And do your spirits work with your soul? You know, and if so, is your body ready to do those things that your soul is projecting and your spirit is projecting? So, you know, we got. It's one of those things that works good. But doing is the key word. Do it. Don't sit there and be on the couch eating your popcorn and bonbons, and expect that this is just going to happen. No, you got to get up off your butt, go do what you got to do, and you're going to feel a lot more appreciative once you have completed a task that you have in front of you. You know, appreciation was was the third show about this month, and it spoke on perspective and looking at all angles of your situations. You know, sometimes you get so bogged down with all that fear and emotion that's brought through by the ego that you're not looking, you're looking straight forward. You're not looking at the 90-degree angle or the 75-degree angle that you can take to get out of it. You know, you gotta focus on the angles of the perspective of it. You know, sometimes the situation doesn't even call for reaction. Sometimes the situation is there, demands for you just to sit still and just wait, and the answer will expose itself to you. So perspective and appreciation is important.
And go ahead, Brother Charles.
No, it's on you, brother. You got it.
So I was just, the thing that it just kept popping in my head too, is that if you start to ingest information from somebody, you got to really start to watch the actions of the person that you start to ingest from. And I'm just saying that from a sense, I'm just going back to the first time when we were all met at the retreat when I had met Chief. And again, I was no different than a lot of people just sitting and listening, and you taking on, and like, oh yeah, he's dropping it. But then at the same time, I just need to see that these are not empty calories that I'm taking in. And I need to see that this brother is living what he is actually saying. And it was interesting because once you start to check out the people that's around, you start to say, hold up, they're living the way that they're talking. It's going to push you to become now a better person and for you to evolve, because you can't stay stuck in that same cycle. So, and it was one of the things, we was out, and this was at the retreat. And again, I was listening on the radio. I had never spoke to Chief one time on his phone, just heard him all on this, flew out. We're having a conversation, and then the one thing he starts talking, said, hey, you got a knife? I'm like, huh? A knife? What do I need a knife for? Man, they got these wild turkeys out here that be just, I'm like, this brother is tripping. But then I'm first thinking, do I need to defend myself from him? But then I'm like, when he's talking, he really lives it, the culture that he really speaks on. And it's just the little things that you start to see that add up into what makes somebody they are. I went outside one time and I seen Charles, first time I met Charles. It's 2:00 in the morning and he's out there reading a book. I'm like, what is this dude doing? But when you start to gather yourself around people who are living what they're actually saying, and you start to engage in conversations with them, you're either going to rise up to the challenge. You're going to say, I can't stay stuck in this spot. Now it's going to push me to become a better person, or you're just going to go by the wayside and you're going to run to find where you can feel more comfortable. It's not going to challenge you to become a better person. You can just have your crazy can still stay in this space. So when you really start to look at that, it really starts to challenge you to become a better person. So again, check your circle and see if they're really living and being about what they are. And if they're not, then you got to get out. Because it's just not going to work.
I think that's so important too, man. And just like with the brothers call, the men's call, is that we're building it. And me and Chief were speaking about this earlier, is that once you start seeing people moving, man, it inspires you to move. Like Zach literally gave me a lot of energy this week, just by the momentum that he's going on. He got his videos popping up, so you got to pay attention to a lot of stuff you get in there. But at the same time, it's like you start seeing the group, the consciousness, the group consciousness, the community move, and now you're starting to develop the things that you need to do inside of that community, and you start moving with the community. We don't all got to do the same thing, but we all gotta work, man. We all gotta do. So it's inspiring when you're in a community, when you start seeing everybody doing what they want and what they need in their life, what they vibrate with, So that's where the appreciation comes in. You gotta look at all those perspectives, man. You gotta look at all the angles that's being sent to you and you're putting out. Constantly trying to preserve what is in transit in the physical attributes. If you're trying to preserve that, it's impermanent. You know what I'm saying? The ego's telling you that you got to keep this situation going. And understanding that once you get past that and starting to see like all those things are transient, all those things that are coming and going are just wonderful experiences that I have in my life, whether they're good or bad, for however you want to define that. You know what I'm saying? The experiences that you take in on a daily basis, even on a nightly basis, in your dreams, those are all things you should be very appreciative of, things that you should really rejoice and celebrate. You know, and that's one of the things that we got to do when we're on our travels, is celebrate the moment, the present. What have I accomplished? Where am I at? Who's around me? Even appreciate those undeveloped people, because they're reminding you about your own undeveloped. So,
yeah, like that show, man. Life is the ritual, man. Life is the magic ritual. You know, it's true. You know, it's you know, at some point, you know, that last show that you did last week, we were just talking about, you know, like the way that you look at life differently just by having this sort of a different spiritual understanding and different spiritual awakening is very true. I mean, you just look at life differently. You know, you can't, you know, like start a fire to grill some burgers and look at it the same way. You know, you can't sit and watch a thunderstorm happening outside your window and look at it the same way, you know, that you did before you had these understandings, man. So it's a critical part. You know, you have to, you know, and that's the thing that you know, like I think one of the things in one of the intros is like, you know, you have to be as natural as possible with your spiritual work, and the natural part of it that's a connection to the study of nature. You know, and it's a study of your nature as well, your human nature, and the experiences of you in that space with everything else around you, and the interconnectedness of all that. You know, it's like Brother Anwar was saying, you know, when you show appreciation, even when you're showing an appreciation to an Orisha, right? When you're giving an offering, that offering goes to that Orisha. Offering is also for you, because you are connected to that. You know, like there isn't a part of this thing that's disconnected from you. So any appreciation to something is also an appreciation to you. Just like that last show as Chief was talking about, you know, the creator, you know, has to, what was the word? The creator create itself, and yet it's still a part of itself as the whole. You know, the creator, to have a friend, the creator has to split off from itself to create something as a friend for them. We do that same thing. You know, when you give props to your friend, you're giving props to yourself, because your universe, your world, your mindset created that space for that person to be there, and vice versa. So life is the magic ritual, man. And I admittedly really get that during when I was listening to that show. But
yeah,
into these shows, now I get it and I understand that. So that's where it is.
No, I believe brother Dietrich just chimed in. How you doing, brother?
All right, brothers, man. I had called in earlier. Y'all was doing so good, I ain't want to say nothing. We out here at the Shungo Fest. I'm peeping these gems y'all dropping.
So what you have to add, brother? How you doing?
I'm well, man. Just, you know, I was listening to what y'all was saying about, you know, about getting bit by the snake, and pretty much just being, you know, half cocked when it comes to your information. You feel me? Like my dad always used to tell me, he was like, you know, you gotta, when it comes to learning stuff, you gotta go all the way with the information. Like you can't put yourself in a position where you know just enough to be dangerous. You gotta know all of it. So like I think that was key this week, of not getting bit by a snake and being, you know, half cocked with your information. You got to be fully loaded. That way you can really, really get the breadth of what you're doing. But what I took away from this week's worth of shows is being able to recognize when you're dealing with somebody who's undeveloped. Because there was an incident where, you know, a young lady had an incident with her boyfriend, and a date went bad, and she called me because he had scared her, like he was like on some like violent type stuff. So she was like, you know, I want to be able to talk to him, but I can't. I was like, well, you know, you have to look at the situation that you're in. Like, unfortunately, you have to talk to some people. You have to meet people where they at, and you can't expect everybody to be on your same level. And once you see that person is not on your level, you have to treat them as such. She was like, she tried everything. She's like, he was beating on the window, beating on the door. You know, she was like, why you keep doing it? I'm like, man, you just got to talk to him like a child. She's like, you kidding me? I'm like, no. Just got like really got to sit him down and talk to him like a child. Like, do you know why I'm upset with you? Do you know why this is the way it is? Yada yada yada. So when she started doing that, he finally calmed down. And like she broke down in tears. She was like, "Are you?" She's like, "I'm so embarrassed and hurt." I said, "Why?" She said, "Because I never would have thought that this person I'm engaged to marry, I would have to talk to like a child." I'm like, "Yeah." He can't grasp the concepts that you can. So just being able to recognize when a person is underdeveloped and be able to, act accordingly without being biased. So just recognizing the signs of an undeveloped person.
Yeah, or you got to recognize that you becoming an emotional dumping ground for this chick. So now all of a sudden
no, I did that. I did that. I saw where that was going. I saw her. She was like, "Well, why can't you just cut that now? Because you got to deal with that. You got to deal with that." I was like, "You can take what I'm teaching you and apply it, but this your cross you got to bear." I said, I'm not. You're not pulling me in that cycle. And I've been through that before. But I had to have the interpersonal skills to actually say that. Like any other time, oh, that's cool. I'll be over there. I'll help you deal with it. Now I'm gonna tell you how to deal with it, and you do it. I ain't with that.
Yeah, but even then, though, I think that even goes back to what we've been talking about. If you find yourself around idiots, and if she's dating an idiot, she's an idiot. Like, there's no getting around that. We could sit here and play and try to say like, oh yeah, well, he's just undeveloped. She's undeveloped too. If she was developed, she wouldn't be developing, and she wouldn't be dating this person.
Exactly. That was a hard pill to swallow.
Right. So that's the pill that you got to give somebody, but when you give it to them, they run. No, I'm just telling you. I tell me what just like in Monsters Ball when she whipped out, just do something to make me feel good. See, I think that's what again what Brother Charles was talking about is you go get the shoes and then you go get the Vitamix and you go, but you don't want to do the actual work. So you got to dance around, you come around, and I've done this too before, so I'm a victim of it as well. Is you stroke that female ego because I got to tell you that things that you want to hear. And okay, girl, and I understand that he's doing all this to you and he shouldn't have did that and that, this, and that. But have you ever looked at it this way? And they're like, no. And as soon as you tell them something about it, then all of a sudden they flare up. Man, screw that. You're undeveloped. If she is listening, you're undeveloped. And you need to develop yourself. And once you start to develop yourself and get some better light, then all of a sudden you'll see your life start to change. That's your problem.
Yeah, you know what comes to mind too is that old expression of you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. I'm sorry, if I took the time out my day to lead you to the water and you don't want to drink, I'm leaving your ass right there, and you can figure that out by yourself. You know what I'm saying? So my point with that is like, look, if I said this is not working, you're coming at me wrong. You're speaking in a place where I can't even see it because I'm way past that. And I'm telling you, stop. You're hurting me. And once you're doing that, and you don't get any reply, you don't get any energy coming your way directly from me, it's because you still haven't learned to drink the damn water that I put out for you in the first place. And once again, like what Chief was even talking about repeating himself, I'm like that with my children, with my sons. I hate repeating myself. If I have to go past the first time I tell you something, then we're gonna have an issue. You know what I'm saying? So it's getting past that point where, look, I'm just not going to keep on giving you all these gems. I'm not going to keep on telling you like this is the problem, this is the problem, this is the problem, and then you keep on looking at me like I ain't saying nothing. And like what my words are empty thoughts or empty information, or has not been examined, have not been analyzed, have not been thought through before I said it. So look. Some people you got to leave them right there at the bucket, waiting with the water and everything right in front of them. And if they can't keep up with the momentum, they're gonna have to wait, get past that iron wall first before they even catch up to us. So,
well, yeah, I told her that's what Kundalini is like. Like Kundalini it's energy that comes up from your spine. But what Kundalini does, it pulls up whatever issue you got that you've been dealing with, and it just drops it right there in front of you, and it leaves it. I said, that's what Kundalini does. I said, that's what this situation is. This situation has been presented to you. Now you have to deal with it. It's been presented to you. Now you just got to bite it and deal with it. That's the decision you made. That's the bed you got to lay in. Now, if you can't get him to do nothing, then, that just goes to show what you want. I said, because when you get through talking or, crying or whatever, which, I know that's embarrassing when you make the wrong choice. But I said, whenever you date someone, that person is a reflection of you. It's up to you to be mature and intelligent enough to figure out which reflection of you that person is. So you have to look inside yourself to see how that person is mirroring you. I told him, the universe just held up a mirror to you. But at a certain point in your life, you was like that and probably still are. So you have to really, really take a bite of that humble pie and look at what he just did to you and look at what you have been doing to other people. And she was like, you're right. And she was just crying. I'm like, she was like, well, I wish you was here. I'm like, no, man, you got to, this is something that you have to deal with. You just got to eat that humble pie.
There's something else that comes to mind with what you're speaking on too, which Chief spoke on to it about appreciation. It's synchronicity too. Yeah, everything that's synchronized in your cipher right now, in your daily 3D density reality and physical and body temple, is dealing with synchronicity. So once again, going back to what we were talking about, is the undeveloped people that you have around you is also a sign of your own undevelopment. The synchronicity that's happening, exactly. the losses and all the other things that are happening inside of your cipher right now is because this is what you are. And until you examine that, once again, you go through the appreciation of it, go through the learning of it, go through all the things that we've been speaking on, and then look past it and humble yourself to get past that iron wall. That's the only time that cipher is going to break. And that reality that you're dealing with is going to lose, is going to leave. It's a painful experience. Once again, it's not one of those things that we should take lightly. And some people do take it lightly. That's why they keep on getting stuck. They keep on going through the same things that they went through last year or the year before, or even 20 years back, because they can't let go of the past. They can't understand that the hurt and the pain that you went through in the past are not what you're going through right now. And it's not being active. And once again, another thing is something that he said was respect to the present. It's the present time. We are speaking now, live and direct on enlightenment and transformation with the student panel, Chief Yuya, Anu Nation. This is the present right now. We are vibrating at a place where we are talking about healing, talking about things that we can take in, work, do the work, and get past the places where we're at right now. So, it's synchronicity, man. You got to respect the moment. If a vulture came and sat on my stoop right now, I would sit there and be quiet as I don't know what, just looking at them. I don't know why I'm on these vultures. I like these vultures. You know what I'm saying? North, south, east, west, vultures.
Yeah, at the same time, though, I'm going to just say this and then we'll move on from it, man. Which Chief even just put in, you better be careful with even having those conversations, man. Because you were just even knowing that men are territorial. And if you're dealing with something that's territorial, why are you now trying to give light and offer light to my lady? So now you're intervening, and you might sit up there and say, hey, nah, she called. Nah, man, you go to your man, and if you don't want to be with him, leave him, but don't get me involved with it. Don't put me in the middle of this. And even when you said, oh, yeah, he's going to reflect the light. Men don't reflect light. They give light. There's a whole nother issue in itself. So if she feels like that, maybe you're dealing with an Amazonian type. Maybe I don't know what you're dealing with, but this is not your problem. That's her problem. And you're breaking down all of these kundalinis and all of that. She don't understand what you're saying. She's disagreeing with you, and then what's going to end up happening is she's going to end up blaming you for the situation that she's in, and she's going to tell him that this is what you told her to do, and now you got a whole nother issue on your hands. The best thing you can do is just get the heck out of that situation and good luck and good riddance.
But that's why I removed myself from that situation. I said, this is something that you have to deal with him. I can't save you from that. Like, that's your dude. Like you like I said, it just, the universe held up a mirror to you. And this is something that you have to deal with. I can't fix that. Like,
and that should have been the end of the conversation right there. That's it.
And it was, because like Jeff Foxworthy used to say, you can't fix stupid now. You're asking a little bit too much.
All right, hold on. Let me jump in here. Let me jump in. Because this is taking, this whole scenario just brought the show to a ghetto level. This whole scenario is stupid. All right, this is Chief. Y'all all know this is Chief. And I've been sitting here biting my tongue. You know, the language that you're using with this situation, Dietrich, it's still just victimization. You see, so what did she do to make this individual so upset? Why is she calling you? What position do you have in her life? Why didn't he call you? You know, there's so much wrong in this entire scenario that it shouldn't even be brought up. This is just that dumb ghetto stuff that keeps us, whenever we have an opportunity to build on something at a higher level, we go to stupid stuff like this. This chick shouldn't even have called you. You shouldn't even be picking up the phone talking to someone else's woman. That's foul, period. So what position are you posturing yourself as in her life that she feels that you're the person to call when she upset her man? Because we're not hearing that side of it. We're only hearing that he's going off and that's a reflection of you. No, she may be an asshole. She may have said something slick to him. She may have said, I'm going to get somebody to F you up. And he may have chased her out of somewhere, and she ran into her car and locked the doors and called you and said, I wish you were here. Let me call Big Strong Dietrich, the security guy. This is just stupid. The whole scenario is stupid. All of it. From beginning, from her calling you. And who is this chick? You know, we don't know her. We don't even know the whole story, but let's not discuss stupid stuff like this. We were at a certain level. Let's keep it at that level. This is not about undeveloped people. This is about simpism. You simping for this broad. She's not even your woman. What the hell is she calling you for? And why are you picking up the phone and giving her all of this advice and guidance, and she has a man? If she doesn't like him, break up with him. Or maybe she's a jerk. Because what kind of individual will be in a situation with their man and she's talking about he's getting violent hit? Well, drive the goddamn car off. Drive away. But what kind of individual will be in a situation like that and then call another man? Unless this is your little sister or your little niece or something, she's the problem. And we ain't even discussing that because she ain't on the line. Let's cut this. This is retarded. This is that retarded nigga stuff that I always try to keep I knew information away from. These are retarded nigga scenarios. Oh, she beefing with a man and he excuse me. Screw all that, man. We don't discuss that type of dumb shit. No, that's nigga stuff. That's nigga drama. We don't really have solutions for nigga drama. We have nigga solutions for the nigga spirit. So let's stop the nigga spirit where it's at, and all the symptoms that come with it. That's for reality TV. This is just dumb. This is dumb. And we're spending time now discussing the symptoms without actually knowing the origins and the source of the actual problem. What kind of mentality does she have? What kind of mentality does he have? I mean, what exactly was said? What was the scenario? What was done? She might have pulled a knife on him. She might have thrown hot grits on his back, treated him like Al Green. We don't know the scenario. This is nigga drama. Cut it. Cut it. Go to the next. Keep it moving.
And you see how that works, man. The value of examination, being stuck in a cycle, and appreciation for the time, the synchronicity of the event of what's happening right now. we just got a dose of that. Big dose. You know what I'm saying? And this goes into, once again, the last segment of this month. And that's looking at the moon and not the finger. Chief just came here looking at the moon. So we're looking at what the moon is reflecting, and now we're examining it and taking it in and showing the attributes that should be there to heal from the situation and move forward and move past that. You know what I'm saying? So, that last segment, the biggest thing I got from it was subconscious of fear and it equaling dissidence. You know what I'm saying? Once you are afraid of not speaking your mind, afraid of not being able to pay a bill, not be able to do the things that you want. Once you have attracted that fear and put that fear in your mind, now you're receiving dissonance from the situation that's happening. You know what I'm saying? You can't look past it. You're completely blacked out from the next level of enlightenment and growth, because all you're doing is worried about these little minor physical events and experiences that you're not learning from them. You know what I'm saying? And that's one of the things that we are always going to be, is a student, a learner. No matter how high up the scale or how low we are in the scale of education and knowledge, we're always going to be that student to learn the next experience. It's an infinity. Once again, going back to that snake, the way the snake turns. Sometimes the snake has to eat the body. How it can be in a coil like a figure eight. Everything comes back and forth, push and pull, masculine and feminine, interplays between the light and darkness. That's what we're about.
And that just made me think of, even when we're talking about everything, just comes right back full circle of standing up and being a man. Right. And a lot of times when you got these feelings along, just wanting to be liked. And when you be liked, then you start to lose really what you came down here to do. There was a whole sense and purpose of why you came down here as a man or as a woman. So you have to now be a man despite of what vibration that it starts to send out. This, or not because of what it's going to do, but despite of how other people are going to start to view you. Despite of other people, how somebody feels and their feelings of what they're going to get from telling them the truth, you have to be a man despite of all of that. And it's not fair being a man. It's not fair. You don't get any kudos. You don't get any standing ovations. You don't get anything. All you get is just being a man. But you have to be what you came down here to be, despite of how everybody else feels. And people and women are starving for it. They are looking for it. What is the sense and purpose of you being a man if you're not going to be one? What's the sense and purpose of going and hiding behind a bush when this woman starts to flare up? You got to stand on your own too. This is what it means now. You just got to be solid. And this is when you started. We're talking about being developed. You got to develop yourself into a Jagan. And the only way you can do that is being around other Jagans. And it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing when you start to stand on your own too, and you can grab your own cojones. It's a beautiful thing. Appreciation right there.
And the other thing too, man, is that that one of the last shows, I don't know if it's the last one or the one before that, was talking about really the necessity of change, and how if you want to have the situation be different, you have to be willing to change. And change is a difficult process, right? It requires you to cleave yourself from things and from situations that you might have been comfortable in. Like that scenario right there, we saw firsthand how you do something completely different, right? By taking a step back and being very analytical about the situation and breaking it down in a way that you can determine there's no point in me even participating in this anymore. There's no point in me even being involved in these kinds of situations. That's an important part of being willing to change. That's breaking the cycle, breaking out of the web. All those things comes from your willingness to detach from those situations. And sometimes that's a cold and that's a rough and that's a hard move, but it's a necessary one. And that's a necessary one for you being an adult. You know, a lot of times we don't want to be adults. We don't want to take on the real adult responsibility. And sometimes there are people that are going to pull on you to be the adult for them. But that's not your role. Your role is to be an adult for yourself and handle things on your own business and in accordance with your own character. So we just, that was a teachable moment for everybody, really. Because, you know, some of us might have been thinking that, but, you know, Chief said it, and that's the role of the Chief Juggernaut. And so that's the prime example right there. What's necessary to break these cycles, to make sure that you're not an undeveloped person, means that you got to change things and how you operate as well.
Rachel Taylor just said something in the chat room, which was pretty cool. You know, I'm gonna run with this. Life is not fair for male or female. I believe once you've reached a level of development, you are walking your path is not about fairness or unfairness. And that's so true, man. It just goes back into the concept of good and bad. What is good? What is bad? There's really the only thing that makes it good or bad is your ego. And fairness and unfairness is the same concept. Is that how do you know that just because you didn't make $1,000 this month and you're $200 short from paying all your bills, and that's supposed to be unfair? Maybe you were sitting on the couch. Maybe you were doing things that were against your life purpose that wasn't reflecting your greater abundance and greater wealth. You feel me? Your greater prosperity. So, you know, what is unfair? What is fair? What is good? What is bad? And once again, it goes back into that spiraling effect that we talk about. There's times in our life when we'll be spiraling out. And if you know, and then there's times in your life you're spiraling in. You know, we gotta look at the spiral not just being the two-dimensional thought where it's always spiraling out. You know, it comes back in. If you take a spiral and look at it on a piece of paper, it looks flat. It starts from one point and flows out. But if you take that piece of paper and lift it up and look at it from eye to eye view, instead of looking on the table, now you're going to start seeing that spiral. It looks like it's coming out towards you. And best believe when it's coming out towards you, it's spiraling out. But it also can retract and start spiraling back in. You know, that's kind of the basis. And just to give you some science behind it, is that if you look at a waveform that's a sound waveform on a computer, it looks flat. The dynamics of it looks flat because it's projected like that. But when you really listen to a sound wave, it's coming at you in a spiraling effect. So, you know, there's some science behind that. That same science can be applied to how you look and how you move in your life, knowing that there's times that the spiral is going to retract. Sometimes it might retract real fast. Sometimes it might retract real slow. Sometimes it might expand so far that you can't even reach back to the center anymore. You know what I'm saying? That waveform is that vibration. Once again, that waveform, the way the vibration runs is important to understand, and knowing the appreciation of where you are at, going up that peak or down the peak. You know, knowing where you're at is something that you always got to be appreciative of, and also always got to examine. You know, if whatever situation you might do, if you take a monthly exam, a daily examination, whatever you might need to do to help you get to that point of self-examination and appreciation and being able to move from that point, you know, you got to find a way. And once again, we're in a community and a nation. We are here to serve, the ministry to serve. So, you know, you're not alone. You're not alone, and you're never alone. So,
you know, and I'm going to say this too, because I see it was Chief answered it, but I'm going to just add this too. When she said not being fair with being a man compared to what? When I'm speaking of not being fair being a man, I'm saying that it's not fair with this societal agenda, which is a feminist agenda, which now all of a sudden you suppress the masculinity out of a man. And anytime you suppress or try to domesticate what somebody actually is, you try to tame it to fit the societal agenda. So then now when you actually stand up and you become a man, now that's when you start to basically attacks the system in itself. And when are things at most strongest? When they're at its wildest. But we, in this society, we want to domesticate things to make them fit into a box so now we don't really necessarily have to worry about it. So that's when I'm speaking of being fair. I'm speaking against a societal agenda that is being pressed on one. And then let me ask you this, though, because I wanted to ask y'all something. When we speak of just being undeveloped, is it possible for one to be undeveloped due to picking, let's say you have a dented or a bad, let's say dented or a reed? Could it be possible for one to be undeveloped from, let's say, an abortion that maybe has happened before and then they're coming back and they was aborted at once, or being sold into slavery, so then when they're reincarnated, they still have those genes or still that imprint? So now it will cause one to really not be able to develop along with a certain group?
I'm thinking about that one. That's a deep question right there. I don't. This is what I would say is this, man, is that we either believe in true self-empowerment or we don't. And if we do, then you have to believe that everything that happens to you, whether it's positive or negative, is a part of your doing. And you are at some point in some way the owner of that experience. And so, whatever the situation it is, the family you're born in, the experiences you have, maybe, you were abused in some way or molested in some way, all those things, none of it gives you the excuse to not still try to manifest the best self, man. And you can't, I can't buy into that. Like, yes, some of us have a harder life. Some of us, our situations are more difficult. Some of us maybe have a quote unquote bad or read. But even for those of us with facing all those challenges, there's still a way out. There's still a way out of the spider web. There's still a way out of the cycle. You may have to work harder to get your way out of the cycle, but you either believe in this self-empowerment or you don't. You either believe that you are the owner of your own destiny or you don't. And for me, I just have to believe that if there's a situation, if there's a problem and I'm in it, then I can figure a way out of it. So that's what I would say.
Chief just said something really dope in the chat room. Really, I'm saying dope. It's medicine. It's medicine. It's medicine for you. The Ori is always talking, but so are the ancestors and the earth spirits. We educate ourselves about the nature of them in order to distinguish their voices and urges. Meaning that Ori, that situation, and this is what just to relate it to the conversation too, is that those things that we're going through, that we've been raised in, that environment that we were brought up in the world and are attributes or distinctions of something that we need to do in our life purpose. We have to either come above that or find a different route, some kind of angle to move above the situation that we were at. You know what I'm saying? So that's one of the important things. I think Loeb, the scholar, is on the line, so I'm not sure if he's on.
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, Loeb, what's going on, brother?
Hey, what's going on?
Chilling, man. How you doing, brother?
Oh, I'm good. I'm good. Just out, out here looking at trees and clouds and whatnot.
On the
best place.
I'm on the sunny side of the game.
So what you got to share, brother?
I think this has been a good conversation. Like always, y'all bring that fire, and I think that'll, when we talk of these things, and as the question was just posed, all I thought of what Chief said in one archive show was, for those that walk the earth, you have a duty to make the world better than it is now. So if you dealt with a bad hand in your life, that still don't negate the fact that you have a duty or whatever. So I mean, you still gotta gravel shove and soldier on and get to where you need to be. A lot of people don't have some things that that you had, and sometimes they probably had less. You know what I'm saying? You see that, when you go to other countries, and or so-called underdeveloped countries, but you see people still smiling and able to play and still have good personalities. It don't matter where they live, So I mean, that's to me, that's you know doesn't negate you from the dude that you were seeing. You were seeing him for something, and you have to, you still have to carry it out. Whether or not you choose to, that's on you. But I mean, you just can't say, I didn't have this or I didn't have that. Just I guess just turn to excuses. So
What I understand about that, that's called when you pick a bad ori, that's called having an ori bubo or a bad ori. And what Chief has said about that is that sometimes that people go through that stuff because that's karma they got to deal with. And the only thing that can balance out karma is sacrifice and wisdom. So a lot of the times the sacrifice is simply changing how you view things. So if you did pick a bad ori, you got to do what it takes to even your ori back out. So in a way, yeah, but I think that's karma. Like when you go through those situations, those rough situations where you've been molested, you've been, grew up poor, you pick that because that could be potentially past life karma that you're dealing with, and you came back again to correct that karma. So like Brother Charles has said, like, you got to play the hand that you dealt, and it's up to you to be developed enough in the mind to change your outcome based off your actions and your sacrifice. Like, what are you willing to sacrifice to get back into balance? Like I said, sometimes you got to sacrifice your ego. Sometimes you got to sacrifice what you want. Sometimes you got to sacrifice being around certain people. But that's the sacrifice you have to make to bring yourself back into balance and balance out your karma. So that's what that was my take on that.
There's something that Chief just said in the chat again, and I'm going to read it. The society you were born into is your family. After that, we passively choose our societal investment. Fairness is usually distributed by the enlightened, rarely received on a mass level. So just with that concept is that when you're speaking of what you were born into, what situations that you grew up in, after that, everything that you choose to participate in from that upbringing is on you. And if you haven't taken the time out to once again go through that self-examination and looking for other angles to move past it, you're still stuck. It's your issue. That's something that you have to pass off. And in order to work in a community, you have to get past some of those issues. Once again, there's certain people that will help you get up the mountain. So certain people that will show you the way. Some certain people that won't let you pass. So, and then there's also certain people that are going to push you down. So think about that in the ways that we work on a daily basis.
And first of all, I appreciate y'all's response, and I wanted to ask you something too, Brother Lowe. You still on?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
You said you was on a debate team, I want to say. Did you say that, or am I just making that up? So what are some of the ways that you started to decipher the information that you was going to actually use that can be utilized, and then disregard some of the stuff that would help you develop some of the points that you wanted to hit? And then why do you think also that you can get 5 to 6 scholars in a room and none of them can be able to come together and agree on a certain point?
Well, in debate, that there are certain rules, and then you have to research your point, whether you're for or against or whatever, and you have to research your point. And me, I would look at the research and then basically create the sort of delivery that I wanted to take with my position, and I think that a lot of scholars don't really come together is because maybe because I think sometimes because of their ego or whatever, they just talking to hear themselves talk. You know, they're very selfish in that reason. Like you know, in like in the university I went to, you know, down south. I used to hang with a lot of professors, and you know, the ones that I really respect, and you know, those were my teachers, and they would tell me what would go on in these teacher conferences about what we can do for the school. And one of my professors, he used to say, you know, we need to be in the business of making millionaires, but nobody wanted to hear him on it because they'd be like, oh, you know, he coming with his military, you know, background or whatever. But he's like, no, you know, and you know, we need to look at this as a business, you know. And he would really try to drive home this point, but nobody would listen to him. You know what I'm saying? But he looked at what other, you know, Western Europeanized schools were doing, and that's what they were doing. They was in the business of making millionaires for their school, building that prestige, you know, and building think tanks and stuff, you know. And when you go to a HBCU, you don't have that type of thinking, and you have all these scholars, but they don't have no, you know, no real application of certain things. You know, sometimes you write a bunch of books, but then where's the application? Where have you applied it? Like I knew, you know, people that wrote books, you know, professors that wrote books, but they wrote books on what they knew and what they knew to apply, and certain things like that. So I think, you know, like you say, you see those people, you know, that try to, all they do is talk and lecture, but they don't live it, you know. They don't live what they talk about, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like
Mm-hmm.
I say, you know, you know, you don't live what you rap about, you know. So that's how I see it. When debating, I do the research, and then I don't use subjective thinking or subjective points. You know, I try to be objective as I can to prove my point. Where, you know, you use the Socratic method and philosophy and all that, but I mean, in my tone, it's subjective when I speak, but in my viewpoints, it's objective. You know, so I would say, you know, if you're applying, you know, these certain things, you know, you know, think outside the box, like, you know, you were talking about, you know, how somebody was born with a bad ORE and bad karma. And then here I am thinking, you know, okay, why don't that person, like, hypothetically sit down and, you know, observe, you know, the world around them, and just think, okay, what's the lesson learned from this? And where do I go from there? Like Chief would say, you got to start where you are sometimes. And that's how you move forward. If you ask me, my teacher used to always say, you know, so what if you messed up? Do the next best thing. He didn't say stop going or stay right here. He would always just say do the next best thing. And that's what sometimes people have to do. Okay, so you don't have, you know, this or that, but what do you have? And where can you go from there? You know, sometimes I'm starting to look at, you know, certain things in life like a dang on video game, where in certain games you don't have everything that you need, but you know, you have to go do certain things, you know, to make up for what you don't have. Just like when she talked about, you know, we talked about this long before, like the warrior and the rogue and the sorcerer, the priest, and all those archetypes. You know, all of them are not, you know, all of them have ups and downs. You know, they have plus and minuses, and then you have to understand what you can work with each of them and apply it to your situation. You know, you have a warrior. You know, warriors, you know, get in the thick of battle, but you know, but the priest is supposed to back him up. The you know, the archer is supposed to back him up. You know, be his support when it comes to long range and whatnot. You know, so you learn how to play to those strengths and also play to those weaknesses. You know, so that's how I see it. You know, when it comes to all that. You know, everything is like everything goes back. You know, like with times like this month. You know, Chief's teaching still goes back to some of the old archive shows if you listen to them. You know, I listened to, you know, last week, and I'm like, man, he said the same thing like 2 years ago. You know, it still goes back, you know, to the same thing. It still goes back to, I guess it still goes back to the same basics, you know, still goes back to the same principles. But I mean, when it comes to being being in that scholarly space, most of the time it's ego. You want to be out in the forefront instead of, you know, let's all just come out together. You know what I'm saying? And we can get a lot of things done instead of just talking points, you know, or I'm for this and I'm for that. You know, like I remember Malcolm X saying, you know, sometimes it's better just to keep your religion in the closet, you know. And I keep on thinking about it even now, because I'm like, sometimes, you know, you hear people say this, I'm a Christian, I don't do that. But then that stops you from being, you know, with people that that could be possibly good for you, even though they don't believe or pray like you do. They're still good people, no matter where they come from, you know. But you got these ideologies, you know, and that keeps you separate and divided from a lot of people, you know, or a lot of people that could probably, you know, build you up into a better person or make you grow. So I mean, that's just that's what I take from it.
Thank you, Lo. Thank you, Lo.
No
hey,
problem.
I think a couple people chimed in. Who's state your name if you chimed in.
It's DJ. I came back, had to hang up.
Oh.
It got loud.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, we're at 1:10 mark. Any questions? If you have any questions, put it in the chat, and we'll talk about it. I wanted to tap into something Brother Lowe was talking about, is being objective. And I think that's another concept of your examination, is being objective of all the angles that that you can take the information to and where it can go. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's one of the good points that he said. Yeah. I want to he explained it so well with the objectiveness, but I wanted to highlight that point, as being objective, looking at all the angles.
Yeah, and you know, that's, I guess, something. It was when he said that, it's just like the truth can't be argued. Because as much as you want to, I mean, opinions can be debated, but it's like when you finally get to a truth, and then how frustrating do you find that to be? Not, and I don't know if you were right or who was wrong or whatever, but how frustrating do you find that to be when you engage in a debate, that you say that this is the truth? Well, and I guess if you're debating it, then would it necessarily be the truth?
Oh,
well, I remember. Oh, my bad. Go
ahead. Well, I mean, it can be frustrating because it's sort of like arguing with it's sort of like arguing with a woman. you come with your logic and whatnot, but they're still coming with that subjective thinking, and no matter what you do, you can't, you set up a failure. It's a real game, you know. So I mean, all you can do is, because you're doing it in front of judges, all you can do is argue your point to the best of your ability, and come out as the winner. Because to me, it's like this: if you know the truth and you're speaking the truth, really you don't need to defend it, because the truth can speak for itself and it can defend itself. All you doing is just being, I guess you say, being that person's, being the truth's PR rep, and just saying, I'm putting it right here. They can do it. They can do it themselves. Right now, I'm just being a hype man. Really, mm-hmm. I'm not forcing you to think a certain way. I think that's another problem that we have, is that we try to force people to think the way that we do, instead of, just putting it out there and just understanding where each other is coming from. And to me, it's like, I feel like that's what Chief does. He puts the information out there, and he doesn't force nobody to, this is what he just puts it out there. You know, if you listen to it, fine. If you don't, I don't care. You know, like she says, I do not care. You know, that's cool. But you know, that's what's up. But I mean, when you have people that think that way, you know, you can't really do nothing with them at all. You know what I'm saying? It's like if you put in a survival situation, you tell somebody, you know, you need this done, and then say why and this and that. They constantly, you know, questioning what you're saying. It's just best to just leave them where they are and keep on going where you need to go, because they ain't gonna get it. They ain't gonna understand. You know what I'm saying?
Straight like that. So one thing Chief said too is debates are for opinions, not for facts or truths. If you are living a personal truth, no one could debate that for you. You can do your self-examination and see if the information that's being brought to you is correct. But at the same time, if it's truth for you and it's a truth to where you're at in life, it's going to be hard to sway somebody's opinion on that truth or fact. If 1 and 1 equals 2, you're not going to tell me that it doesn't add up to anything else. Because if I got this one apple right here and this other apple right here, I know I got 2 apples. Fact. You can't debate that with them. Whether they're GMO or they're organic, we can debate that.
Right, we can. And then you find sometimes that you're debating debating opinions that you necessarily don't agree with. You know, it comes to that. You know, so yeah, when you have like sometimes they say, well, numbers don't lie. But no, what can be proved over and over again, it can't be debated against. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, I understand where she comes in that retrospect, because there's a there's a lot of opinions that can be debated on, but you can't, you know, debate on. Okay, you can't debate on whether the sun's going to rise in the east, you know, on Sunday or Monday. You know, it's going to do it whether you got an opinion about it or not. You know, it's constant.
Well, I was taught that opinions are like private parts. Everybody got one, but not everybody really want to see it. And debating is the equivalent of masturbating, because you're not really producing anything. So when you know a truth and you debating somebody who's going against that truth, although you presented facts, and at that point you just masturbating just to feel good because you're right. Like if the conversation isn't objective, then you pretty much just wasting time. So like that's what I was taught about debating people.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to hear what Brother Charles has. He's just over there in the cut.
Charles is probably off enjoying his family. It's Sunday.
Oh, okay. All right.
In the background. You know, I wanted to add a little piece to this. I know we're getting ready to close it down in a few minutes, but you know, I've said it oftentimes, and I'll say it again, that we tend to be a people of emotion and not a people of history, and not understanding the very distinct relationship between history and economic power. We're not encouraged to learn things about our history. So when we're confronted with different situations and different scenarios, we often begin to speak and listen emotionally. You know, and when we begin to speak and listen emotionally, of course, then we're riding the wave of our surface opinions. Of course, our surface emotions, our guttural reactions, those reactions that come straight from the throat without really going through all the systems checks, you know, before we have a launching of our actual statement. So if you understand, again, that we tend to be more people of emotion rather than a people of history, then you'll understand why a lot of times our logic is so flawed. So, for instance, it's like what Lo said earlier, the difficulty with sometimes arguing with the female, because typically, yes, females do listen and respond emotionally, and even when they utilize logic, their logic is predicated upon what they feel. So logic is only used to confirm what I'm feeling. So even if you present logic to them, they'll just listen, and if it doesn't confirm what they're already feeling, then they'll just dismiss it and they'll go back to what they're feeling. But when I say females, I'm not necessarily just talking about women. You have males that respond in the same way because they listen and respond emotionally. Because inside of every man is a female. Inside of every female is a man. So we have leanings and inklings towards either side at times, and sometimes there's an imbalance. So one of the highest or immediate signs of a person that's undeveloped, or even an audience that's undeveloped, or even a speaker or a teacher that's undeveloped, is that there's never a real true tie-in with history and their platform. Like when we look at preachers, for instance, we know preachers primarily, when you come out of the church, what are you going to say that Sunday? A preacher preached a good sermon. What did he talk about? I don't know, but it felt good. I feel good, So really, there's no tie-in to history there, because if there was a true tie-in to history, you'd realize that preachers been preaching the same exact message for 50 years. And his father was preaching the same exact message for 50 years before him, and his father, and so forth and so on, until, that Bible was handed to him, in the form that we know it today, of course. So when we start to look at the direct connection there, that, a lot of times we lose our objectivity because we lose our sense of history. Like when Dietrich brought up the example and I said, what did she do to make him that upset? You see, so immediately I'm acknowledging the emotional aspect, but let's use our historical references first. Let's use that to predicate our knowledge, not the emotion and the hype and the dramatization of the moment. So a lot of times, even when you're listening to or you're experiencing an undeveloped collective, you're experiencing people who don't know history or don't care. That's why you can have so many teachers come forth, get caught up in scandals and all kind of things. They just wait it out for maybe 6 to 7 months or a year, and then just reemerge. And then everything is like it resets, like Groundhog's Day. Everything starts all over again. So in fact, there was a movie about that. I think it was called 31st Dates or 41st Dates, something like that. About an individual. I forget that part of the brain. I don't think it's the amygdala, but it might be the hippocampus. That retains memory and that part.
100 First Dates.
What was the name of it? 100 First Dates.
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I should have known you would know. But it's like we have that same kind of damaging within ourselves. So every time a situation arises, we can't really look at the historical context. And then we get confused, and then we start to direct ourselves and advise others and advise ourselves based on 50 first dates, Antonio says. Okay. But so it's between 150. But we begin to move with very flawed information because, again, sometimes, we're so effeminized as well that, and toxic femininity. So I don't mean feminized in a good way where we're in touch with our feminine nature or anything like that, or that there's even a problem with the feminization, because there isn't in a woman. There's no problem with the feminization, but it becomes toxic when it becomes an impedance to our path. So a lot of times, even us, when we're going into, whether it be our spiritual studies, our political studies, or our cultural studies, we're going into it because of an emotion. And then usually what brings you into something is what you're going to utilize to keep you in that space. So when there's certain situations come up, we're listening emotionally, responding emotionally, and all our logic is emotion. So that's why we'll listen to someone and say, well, so-and-so is a con man or a con woman, but they be speaking the truth. So I mess with them. You see, so you're completely negating the historical aspect, which, because you don't understand how the history of that person directly relates to the economy of that person, and economy is relationship. So how you relate to them should be predicated to some degree, in a very large degree, on not necessarily how they make you feel, but what their historical legacy has been. You see, so even, we look at Ifa, we look at divination, we're scratching beneath the surface of the moment. The surface will be, I'm hurt because nobody likes me. Well, that's the surface of it. Well, let's look at the history here. And then that's when we scratch and go beneath the surface. Going beneath the surface, we may find it's not that no one likes you. It's just that, you're antisocial, or your perception is off, or you take things out of context, or you don't like anyone, so you're projecting that onto other people. And you've been doing this since you were 7, 8 years old or younger, So I just wanted to kind of interject that piece, because that's one of the largest stumbling blocks that I see for all of us. If I was to wrap up this month into one idea, where we're talking about, undeveloped people, or like Lo said, going back into the archives, he finds that some of the things that were said today were said before. And obviously, because I got to keep drilling the same points, because people are ignoring them. Like I just said just now, what I'm telling you right now really encompasses a lot of what was said all month. And about probably 85 to 90% of the people listening right now are going to ignore that point. I know it. I've been doing this long enough. I know the patterns. But the direct relationship to history is important. So someone presents a situation to you, you don't know the right questions to ask. You're focusing on how the person feels. I don't give a damn how you feeling. That's the smallest part of it. What led up to this? There's a reason why it's called grasping the root. What led up to this? So somebody comes to you and says, yeah, we need to clean up the schools and we need to do that. Well, why are the schools there to begin with? Or we need to support HBCUs. Why were those HBCUs founded, and who originally funded them? Learn the history of that. Then you might say, well, heck, maybe we shouldn't even be involved in that. Maybe we shouldn't be going to HBCUs to begin with. Maybe we shouldn't be trying to clean up the schools, because you really can't clean up something that was designed to keep you a slave. Black, white, red, purple, it's designed to keep anybody who would be dumb enough to go into that space. Is designed to keep you a slave. So you come in there and say, well, we need to have an African curriculum put into the schools. No, you need to knock the goddamn building down and put something more productive there. Because the entire nature of the building, the design of it is designed to keep you a prisoner. It's designed like a prison. It looks like a prison inside. What are the walls in school? Concrete. They only use 2 colors, blue and brown. Sometimes battleship gray. We'll go to a state prison. Those are the only colors you're going to see on the walls. So what I'm saying is that when we start to look at it from a historical perspective, and this is our spirituality, that's why we have had griots, and we have griots to let us know, like, look, player, you about to repeat something that we did 200 years ago, or your grandfather has that same gene of stupidity in him that you have, and your great grandfather or grandmother did the same exact thing 300-400 years ago. So you about to repeat the pattern, player. That's why you got an etah when you were born, to let you know what your taboos. But you're about to repeat one of your taboos, and you're going to end us in the same place again. You see, if you've been in this conscious movement long enough, for those of us who've been in it or were born in it, you're going to basically see that everything is just looping. It just keeps looping. We're stuck in this loop because we have no memory. So we're always talking about the same stupid stuff, and we start to develop addictions around the same stupid stuff because they're so familiar. So we want to keep gravitating towards what is familiar, the loop, the loop, the loop, the loop, the loop, the loop. One of the things that we need to start developing is an economy. What is the economy? Relations. If you have relationships, you don't need to know everything. You don't need it. Because I can make a phone call. I can walk down the street You know, Brother Charles, for instance, is a business consultant. You know, he works with nonprofits. If I wanted to know how to do, hey, Brother Charles, I'm gonna start a nonprofit. I don't have to now go and buy, you know, any of the Nolo volumes or Anthony Marcuso's books on how to start your own nonprofit. I just have to take Brother Charles to lunch. That's it. You see, so that's part of, you know, not again having that historical memory there where we're even looking at the people in our circle, looking what they've done historically, looking at what their legacy is, and building from that forward, because that's where the village and the community is created. You know, so I know that was a long interjection there, but it's I feel it was a very necessary one because I have to be very honest with you all. The circular conversations and the whack ass leaders sicken me to my stomach. And those are the only things that will make me leave this movement. Because if I see that the people have an addiction to jackassness, what the hell am I doing here? Because I'm not a jackass. I know what I am. I know I'm an alpha. I know I'm out there building and putting the work in. And if you don't want that, if you want the imitation stuff, I'd rather just bounce. I'd rather just go somewhere else. You know, I could go make 20 children. We just start our own thing, you know? So it's an important point. And I have to tell you honestly, you lose some of your very valuable instructors that come into your environment because of the effery, of the tomfoolery. You lose them because they get discouraged. This is what you want. It's like opening up a healthy restaurant in the middle of the hood because the hood complains that they don't have any healthy options. And then somebody opens up a juice bar or a natural food store and nobody goes in it. It's empty all the time because you want to go to Crown's Chicken or Kennedy Fried Chicken or whatever, you know, Louisiana fried, whatever garbage that you want to eat, because you can get for $2.99, you can get a couple pieces in a biscuit, and the oil that they coat that garbage and coats your stomach so well that you don't feel hungry anymore. You don't want to go get something healthy. So what are they going to do? They're not going to keep preaching to you about the benefits of eating well. They're going to close up shop, or they may take that entire idea in store and move it into an environment where people do appreciate that. And most likely, that environment is going to be full of people who don't look anything like you. They may even be the people who you previously or currently call your enemy. Just something to consider.
Boy, boy, boy. Well, I will sit there and say thank you, Chief, for that. That's something that we can all take in right there, and
Sure.
that's some good information that's been dropped. Pick up those gems, pass it off to others, share. I will say just some housekeeping. I'll do some housekeeping real quick. Media component. Enlightenmenttransformation.com. Staying tuned with all the information that's being brought forth through Eder Nation and Chief Yuya. Sedula House for classes. SedulaHouse.com for classes and webinars and stuff. There's a lot of stuff going on in there. The site looks fresh, is renewed. We got Ask Osiris for spiritual readings and Osiris Life for monthly spiritual services.com all the way through. So if you guys need to get any of those information on any of those topics that I just discussed, log on, subscribe, become a ministry member. And when we do ministry members, there's always that evaluation, that questioning of what you can bring to the society and what are some of your attributes. So we can all fall into a certain place in our community. So log on to Eder Nation and AnnuLifeGlobal.com to become a ministry member. And I will say this, the swamp priests have been at it. We don't got a collection plate, but we got this fish bucket. We're passing it around. Everybody that's in the mud, you know, if you put cowrie shells or whatever, you can do it. We take it all. And we give it all. So
yeah, so I'm gonna just say this, man. I appreciate, again, and I say this all the time, but man, I just appreciate everybody in this space being able to come in here, have these type of conversations, and for a lot of people who just have like a semi fear, I guess, or afraid to share or afraid to be corrected. That's why we come here, to get corrected, so that we're not doing the wrong thing and being stuck in a cycle. And once you can get out of that cycle, then you can start to evolve and become a better person. So, I mean, don't be afraid of it. Enjoy the process. Enjoy it while even every opportunity that I get when Chief is around, I I try to say, this is what I'm doing or something over here. And then he's, oh, yeah, no, that's not it. Oh, yeah, solid. So then now you can start to evolve it as yourself to become what you need to be. So, again, man, I'm just grateful and thankful for everybody in this space. And until next time, man, just walk, never run. Don't try to rush things. Really scrutinize them and see underneath what is actually being presented to you so you become a more evolved person.
Hey, I wanna give thanks for that medicine y'all gave me earlier today too. I didn't realize. I'm sorry, I didn't even realize I was doing that. But that's what you get back on point when you out or for to catch things that you might miss on your own. So like I said, I really give thanks for that medicine. Now I get the perspective to look at things now.
Cool. Anybody else got anything to say before we close off?
Yeah, just real quick. Just once again, I do want to thank you. Participate in the chat room. Of course, Chief. It's a message in lessons, man, and that's what we're here for. So I think just like with every month, with everything that we talk about, just talking about it isn't enough. You do have to apply these things. You have to apply them to see what kind of change they're going to make in your life. So, it's not enough for any of us to just point out what it means for someone else to be undeveloped. It's also about us looking at, what are the undeveloped aspects of ourselves and working on those things so that, when you revisit this show in the archives a year, 5 years, or 10 years, you can say that you've made real progress. You've made a real change, and that you've done so because of the lessons you've learned for yourself.
I just want to say, I enjoy, this whole space. It's refreshing, and she be kicking that knowledge, man, and like one thing he always say, it's all about relationships, you know what I'm saying? And this proves it, because now what's up? Now that basically, what some people bring to the table, you can add that relationship on to, help that person instead of, outsourcing. Like he used to always talk about, how, one thing, we're not people of memory, but there were times in our history where we did outsource, security or armies or war or even economics, So it's good, to build these relationships because, like, Chief had posed that question one time. What if we were all related? Probably some of us never even thought about that. Because we probably like, how you gonna be related? Why would I want to be related to you? But it's something to think about because it builds relationships, and for people that is based off emotion, we may be based off emotion, but also sometimes we're based off of a lot of individuality where we don't have good standing and strong bonds and relationships where we can collectivize and unify for a lot of stuff. So it makes you think, and you just be grateful for spaces like this. I know I am, because if I didn't have it, I'd probably be going cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, So it's refreshing and it's also a teaching tool. I'm done.
Right on. Well, with that being said, man, until next time, we will catch y'all on Chief Speaks, where Chief will be back with a new topic, a new day, a new nation. We up out of here. Peace.
Peace.
expressions of love, joy, peace, and sorrow. The natural elements that created you are divine forces of the Most High. Speak, drum. The ancestors talk through you, communicating wisdom, power, and protection. We hear you in all life's transitions, births, celebrations, initiations, wars, weddings, and funerals. You are the spiritual pulse that keeps our faculties balanced and communities linked. Speak, drum. You issued in royal kings and queens from Mesurah to Hatshepsut, Askia to Nzinga. They all glided to their thrones in divine cadence to the rhythm of Lamba. Speak, drum. You provided a form of resistance that was in harmony with Nat, Gabriel, Denmark, Sojourner, and Harriet. Like them, you were considered an outlaw and lynched. Yet like martyrs, your spirit is indomitable. Speak, drum. Yes, your voice is heard in spirituals, gospel, jazz, blues, reggae, doo-wop, bebop, and hip-hop. You are the revered great-grandfather that echoes through our veins. Speak, drum. Speak, drum. Speak, drum. Speak, drum.
All right.
Speak, drum.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. This is Chief U.
I'm here.
I want to close out again and definitely thank all of you for being here in this space and, for participating. Those of you who were in the chat and those of you who also called in. Just a reminder, again, every last Sunday of the month, we do the open student panel, which is open to all our new members. Now, if you checked your email today, you would have seen that there was a letter that was sent out. Hopefully, it didn't fly into your spam box, which gave you the number and the code to call in. All right, so I just wanted to give that as a close on top of the close, so you would all know how to connect and when to connect. And of course, you can always, on Sundays, always participate in a chat room. And we also encourage you to comment on the videos, because in doing so, it gives us things that we can answer and whatnot for the next session. All right. So I know most people are off at this point because most people don't make it to the end. But I just wanted to share that. And, on what I spoke about earlier, really quick, on obliterating the nigger spirit, we have to come into that space, man. We can't keep circling around and things that are not working and that bring us nowhere and that take us nowhere. All right. We have to start connecting in. I see Madam Ma'at just reminded all that she does a hike every strong. And she's offering the link. Madam Ma'at, just put it in the chat. I don't know if you can actually link. You might have to play around with the URL a little bit. But I think she does it on Wednesdays or Thursdays. I don't remember the actual day. She did tell me. But if anybody wants to get into some nature space, the sister does that. And there's a lot of other people doing a lot of other things. The relationships are important. Mama Sadaka has a son, Ra the lyricist. Check him out on SoundCloud. He's a young man. I think he's 16, if I'm not mistaken, Mama Sadaka. And he spits. He's a spitter. He's saying things that are important, not only for your children to hear. He's a good role model for your 16s and unders, but it's just good to support him. Support that young brother, So we have a lot of people in our space. Brother Anwar, does music as a mastering engineer. Like I said, brother Charles, business consulting. Brother Zach will be coming forth soon with life coaching services. Under Osiris Life, so you can find them right where you find me. So, we have so many people who are doing so many awesome things. Sister Alva, Allison McCoy, she pops in sometimes. She does earrings and food and all kind of stuff like that, man. It's about the relationships, man. But, I'm always going to come with that hammer when I see things are not moving in the right direction, or you may be kind of playing with the space that is harmful to you and you don't even know it. All right. So I know it's not always a comfortable experience, but being a Jegna, often means that you're not going to have as many friends as you may have wanted to. But you have to say and share what exactly is necessary to keep the people moving and to keep the people growing. All right. And I want to leave you with one little final point as we're talking about raising the standard for one another. Especially between our male and female relationships. Women, you need to understand that the same way you crave and sometimes you even whore yourself out for time and attention, men do the exact same thing for sex. So in terms of raising the standard, sometimes, men will make their time and attention the gateway to be in their presence, and women will make their sex the gateway for being in their presence, when those things that should be really given afterwards once there's value given. So there should be value given for a man's time and attention. Brothers, you're too quick to whore yourselves out, not understanding that she's lusting for time and attention. Sisters, you're too quick to whore yourself or slut yourself out, for a guy who's lusting for your sex, and you haven't presented your actual value, and you show that you have no value over your sex, because 9 times out of 10 it's the first thing that you give. Just like males, you've shown that you have no value over your time or attention, because that's the first thing you give, when that really should be earned. In the same instance, sisters, your sex should be earned, so that it starts to bring people up to a certain kind of standard. And I don't mean just earned because you think you're worth it, because males, your time and attention may be garbage, and sisters, your sex may be trash. Okay? But, understand that is really the aim for both. It's not just about all men want sex. Well, all women want attention and time. You see, and we sometimes do some very outrageous things for each. And you got to understand that, brothers, and you have to understand that, sisters. All right. So crushing on, obliterating the nigger spirit is where we're at, and that's the name of the next cut that's gonna lead us out of Chief Speak. We called it Coons when I first recorded and did it. Crushing on and obliterating the nigger spirit. Peace from Chief Yuya. I'll see you all next Sunday, and for all of you in between who I've been conversing with, I'll see you on the Sadua House site.
Niggas. Peace, nigga. Peace, nigga. Yeah, peace, nigga. Peace, nigga. Peace, niggas. Peace. Peace, nigga. Peace, nigga. Yo, nigga, peace. Ha, peace. Strapping up the djembe to polyrhythmically convey the final days of the nigga. Slap tone and bass stripping the grips of ignorance from the hidden soul. Transforming this man-made monster into an enlightened warrior with traditional power. In this new day and hour, the nigga's heart is pierced by my ox feather. The nigga notion rots in hell forever. Rituals performed annually to perfect the village from the vile memory of proud stupidity. Time to embrace our true legacy. Follow the magical unks to our destiny. Willie Lynch's formula becomes obsolete as we delete plantation socialization. Echoes of Harambe chants resound with joy. Harambe! Brothers accept manhood, severing the umbilical cord from the overaged boy. Sisters' beauty? More than just ass and titties. BET now glorifying the indigenous dances like Sunu and Manjani. Do-rags replaced by crowns and kufis. Graffiti tags rich with the flavor of Tahuti. Youth conversing in the public without profanity. 50 and game spitting lyrics to uplift humanity. Tupac and Big ancestrally orchestrating black unity. Tubman, Truth, and Wells revel in the stance of the modern day Queen Mother, donning the Declaration of Virginia evidence as we have heard. He's not heavy, he's my brother. Ha! So long die the nigga, never to return. Joining his deceased relatives, Coon, Shine, Sambo, and Old Willie, and a host of relatives too many and insignificant to mention. We would like to thank the family members who survived the proliferation of self-hatred, seasoning, and miseducation. You are the indomitable rhythm of our victorious voices. Live with unity and harmony as we mend the fractured pieces. Peace, nigga. Peace, nigga. Oh yeah. Peace, my nigga. Peace, my niggas. Peace, my niggas. Peace, my niggas. Peace, my niggas. Peace, never to return again. Peace, niggas.